9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
This is that time of the year, right? I've always said kind of once the Open Championship wraps up, guys, it's kind of like just get us to the finish line. We're getting towards the end of July, and you're like, just get us to football season already.
Mike Danger.
Man, Wednesday can't get here soon enough. It's going to be a lot of fun hanging out at St. John Fisher, watching the guys get ready for a season.
Bills Camp Live.
Gene Battaglia.
Summer's over, and we cannot wait. First practice out at camp. I wish they would give us a little peek behind the curtain with the rookie camp, because they're out there right now. Yeah, like the rookies are out there, but not allowed out there.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
A good afternoon to you. In the Flower City, we welcome you on in to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Thanks for listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free to download Odyssey app. We're on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, and our video stream is up and rolling. You can watch the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, streaming on Twitch as well at The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
I did not set my alarm for 4 a.m. Like some people were proud to say that they love golf so much they were getting up in the wee hours.
Same. Does that make us bad sports fans? Are we supposed to do that?
No, I think it was, my gosh, there's nothing else going on in the sports world this week. Yes, we had Caitlin Clark last night. Yes, we have Major League Baseball tomorrow. Yes, we have an NBA trade, so it's not completely void of sports news. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm not all like. What would get you, the sports fan, to actually wake up earlier? Staying up later, watch a Sabre game. Staying up later when your favorite baseball team's on the West Coast. That's not a tough part. I think getting up earlier.
I think something national. When I say that, I mean like if the Miracle on Ice was happening today, but it was being played overseas or in the middle of the night, and something of significance was on the line, something national I would get up for. You know, U.S. men's hockey team, men's or women's soccer, maybe.
I don't know if the Olympics is going to force it. It's not that big a time difference between Paris and New York, and I would think that many of the times would be nice for people that live on the East Coast here. So there is that possibility that you could have a gold medal game in some sport that's going to go off at 6 a.m. And I don't know if that would alter, anybody's plans, but
I think I would make a point for that. Yeah, I think I would. I think something national team related, I would probably get up for that if it was of significance.
I haven't crossed the bridge yet because mainly the Mets, but are my team in baseball. But the baseball has started out last year was in Korea. Do you remember that? You started out in South Korea with the Padres and the Dodgers. They've been to Australia. They'll go to other exotic locales overseas.
Funny that you brought that up, Gene. Because today, Major League Baseball said, no, there's nothing going on. Let's just drop the 2025 schedule on y'all. You didn't even know. You're a bigger baseball fan
than I.
had
no idea.
And you had no idea that today was the day that Major League Baseball decided to drop their schedule for 2025. You know, the NFL will give you a morsel or two throughout the course of a week. It's a week-long thing culminating in a primetime special with every team simultaneously releasing their videos of their schedule reveal. Not baseball. Random-ass July afternoon with nothing going on. Here you go. In the middle of the season.
Here you
go.
Of the season.
Here you go. Have at it.
Like, this would be the equivalent of Week 8 of the NFL on Thursday afternoon. Oh, by the way, here's next year's schedule. But like, ew. What? Like, you're an Oriole fan. How do you digest and consume this? I just have to ask the question. Why? Why would you do this? What is the benefit? What is the benefit? Your fans aren't asking for this. Okay, yes. Unbeknownst to us, all leagues plan things out way in advance.
Yeah.
Great. So you hammered it out. It's almost like, hey, everybody, we got our homework done. Here we go. Like, why can't you wait until the first Tuesday night in November. Be like, baseball fans, we're sorry, the season's over. What a great World Series. But here we go next year. This makes a great holiday gift. Why wouldn't they do that?
I don't know, man. It's a weird thing, and I know 162 is more of a challenge than 17, and you're trying to sell a lot more seats over the course of a season than you are if you're in the NFL. But, man, it just feels disconnected. And to bring it back to your original point, the Cubs and the Dodgers are going to kick off the season in Japan. I'm not going to get up for that game.
Not getting up for that game.
I love my Cubs, but I'm not getting up for that game. Not early in the season. Not at whatever middle of the night hour that they're going to schedule. No, that's fine. Keep doing it. Keep starting your season overseas and thinking that like it's a zero to me. It does nothing.
Well, there's nothing wrong with saying this is our season opener. And you're going to give that little tease. I don't know if they picked the London game yet, but I remember that was announced in advance. This year was the Mets and Phillies. When a London game, they always have like a London weekend. Two teams go over. The team that when they play in Williamsport, those specialty games, that's fine. But if you're a Yankee fan, are you dropping everything and going over and memorizing the 2025 schedule right now? I don't think so. Like it as compared to the NFL, and we should compare everything to the NFL. It's a cottage industry. Like
I was Major League Baseball. If I was the NBA, I'd be looking up to the NFL and saying, "What are they doing that we can steal? What are we doing that we can snatch and improve?"
Yeah, it's terrible PR. This should be off-season content. Get excited about next season. But by the time you're thinking about next season, oh yeah, that schedule that was released back in July, it's old news. Somebody explain to me what is the benefit. Airfare, travel, hotels. Yes, I get all that. You don't need to put that up there in public. You don't. What if somebody figures it out? Well, you could figure out if the Yankees are going to be home on the 4th of July. Also, first glance, Danger, doesn't seem like they took our suggestion. Hey, 4th of July, let's give us all the best matchups. No. Give us Yankees, Red Sox. Give us Cubs, Cardinals. Give us all the...
They did expand the Subway Series once again, rightfully so. It'll be a 6 games, 6 games over the course of the season, as it should be, instead of the 4 that we've become accustomed to here the last few years. So that's a story today that dropped. And by the way, you can check in with us on X. That's Elon's Twitter, @TheFan Rochester. Our regulars are already checking in, Gino. Chris in South Central Kentucky, Greg tweeting, "You appear to be well caffeinated today, Danger. A K-cup, Mike Danger." Yes.
Yeah.
How's the coffee situation today? Chris wants to know. I am caffeinated today. I didn't forget my coffee this morning. I went home last night. The headache started to kick in. You get that headache when you miss a day of coffee.
If you were missed this yesterday, Mike Danger was such an airhead yesterday. Didn't have any coffee.
I left without coffee. I can't believe I left my house without my trusty coffee mug.
But we do have coffee here. You didn't want to make a whole pot, but the real reason is you're Mr. K-Cup. That's
you know what else though? And this didn't hit me because we're in our new studios here, and when you're so accustomed to an environment, you forget things when you get shifted. I got home last night and I'm telling Sandy my coffee situation, and she's like, "You knucklehead, there's a Keurig right in the closet in the main conference room right next to your studio." And I'm like, "Yes, there is. I could have done that." Because I didn't want to brew a whole pot because I hate waste. So I could have just done a K-cup of coffee from the closet over there.
I thought that was all kind of reserved for the B. Like you can't go in there. Like Howard Stern's studio can't go in there. I didn't know we were allowed to go in there.
Look, if that's a deal breaker, if me snagging a K-cup of Folgers, which I believe is what is a preferred coffee of choice over there, if that's a deal breaker, I'll make it up to you in some way, shape, or form.
Okay. That's fair, but let's lay the ground rules right now. No other show, no other station is allowed to go into Mike Danger's fridge without his permission.
I've already given Dan DeLorean permission.
Well, he's one of us.
Yeah.
He's part of the club here.
I don't even think anybody needs to know about the fridge.
They'll find out.
Top secret fridge. I don't know that they will. They'd really have to kind of explore to do it. I think you would have to be
a little hidden.
You'd have to be a pretty curious mind to realize that I've got a little fridge stashed away here to my right with a couple of cold ones, a couple of ice cold pops, and whatever the Dandalorian wants to put in there, a sandwich or whatever.
Yeah, so there will come a day, Danger, will he be like, man, rough day, or, ooh, wow, I want to celebrate. It's Friday. And you're going to open up the fridge, and it'll be gone. You know that's going to happen.
I don't think so, man. I have a feeling. I honestly don't think anybody's going to even realize that we have a fridge in here. I don't think anybody's even going to realize it. Unless Bo finds out about it, our brand manager, Bo.
No, but he's got a big mouth. He'll tell people.
If he finds out about it, then, yeah, it's probably over. But I don't even know that Bo knows that we have the
know.
fridge.
You shocked me. It's like you pulled a big-time stunt on me where all of a sudden Danger bends down, goes under the console.
Cracks went open.
Crack. I'm like,
yeah.
where the heck did you
get
that?
This was our last Monday without football. That was earlier this week.
And if you're wondering, Monday, Danger, middle of the day, drinking beer, let me introduce you to Mike Danger.
I have no issues, no qualms. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. I'm not even slightly peeved at the idea of cracking open a cold one during hour one of the sports bar. What kind of show is this, after all? We do have a good show lined up for you today. I hate the people that say it, and I'm about to say it anyways. Today's our Friday. We're off tomorrow. So we end our week with a bang. Michael F. Florio talks some fantasy football later this afternoon, right around 4:25. Does a great job on the NFL Network.
Yeah, so Michael F. Florio is this weekend. You might be doing some homework. If you've got questions you want us to pass on, you can hit us up at X, the fan Rochester. But certainly we'll talk to him about the Buffalo Bills. He's a Bills fan on top of that. Also, we'll be talking to him about Steph Diggs. How is that going to work out down in Houston? Where does that target share go? Hey, Jordan Addison got a DWI or a DUI, or they're investigating. Well, like, there's a lot of different stories and situations. What about Brandon Ayuk? Is this a nothing, or could it be something? Again, a lot of fantasy football questions we can throw at Michael F. Florio. He's from the NFL Network, be coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour.
And making her inaugural visit into the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. RIT women's soccer coach Liz Masterson.
She's cool. I mean, this is going to be a fun conversation because there's a lot going on with soccer. Kind of embarrassing that we are this country that loves sports and we cannot figure out men's soccer if our life depended on it, and the coach is out. So can you recover in time for the next World Cup? We are going into the Olympics. I know for the soccer fan it's not as big, but this would be good for the United States, particularly the women, to get back on top.
Exactly right. Yeah, I'm curious about what the women's national team does in Paris. I think that's an interesting conversation as well that we'll have later on this hour with Liz Masterson, RIT women's soccer coach, in studio here in the sports bar, and we happen to have some delicious fried cakes from Schutz Apple.
I think she'll love those shoots, just as an introductory gift. Liz, is that the most versatile woman's name?
Break it down for me, Gino.
Okay, you have Elizabeth, Liz, Beth, Betsy,
Ooh,
Ebeth, I've heard, Lizzie,
Bets.
That's 7 right there.
Wow, that is a Swiss Army knife of female names.
Yeah, like if I'm coming up with 7, my daughter's name is Alexandra, and she, depending on her mood, will go by Alexandra, Alex, Allie, Al. Doesn't like being called Sasha.
Lex.
No, but you could go Lex or Lexi, so now that's 7.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, that is a versatile.
But the difference between a Liz and a Beth.
Bethy, another one. If you're Elizabeth, you could be a Bethy.
I've never met a Bethy.
Never met a Bethy?
No, just
it's a nickname. Maybe that's like worth half a name. Well, we're talking about a real name, not like Jack, which isn't a real name.
No, Elizabeth is a real name.
Yeah.
Like Liz, that's short for Elizabeth.
Yeah. Jack is not a real name.
Not a real name. No, the name is John. Jack. I'm talking to you, Jack Haley. That's not a real name, buddy. Sorry.
It's not a real name. You know, if we ever do an all-timer list of takes, Jack is not a real name as a finalist. It has to be.
You don't have the audio of that. And I could put Dandalorian up to the task if you could find it. How did that happen? It was some rant, I want to say, on Jack Eichel. And it was going on and on about Eichel. And I want to say probably was around the time that things were going well in Vegas. And, you know, the list of reasons why not to like Jack Eichel. That's not even a real name, I think that was.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong. That's not it.
I do have the audio.
Oh. By the way, Jack is not a real name. You don't know.
That's a take.
No, it's not. Like, honestly, the name is Jonathan. That's why, like, name your kid Jonathan, and Jack is kind of like the way.
Wait a minute.
Jack.
Are you saying Jack is short for Jonathan? What do you mean Jack is not a real name?
You don't name your kid Mike. You name him Michael.
So what's
You don't name your kid Nick. You name him Nicholas.
So where does Jack come from?
Jonathan.
John comes from Jonathan.
Yeah.
Where does Jack come from?
Jack comes from John or Jonathan.
Really? Jack tweeting us. You said just not a real name. I think you summoned Jack by saying, "Hey, Jack, by the way, this guy over here says your name isn't real." That's his take.
Jack is probably a Jonathan or John.
I would like confirmation on that from one of our regulars on Twitter. Jack tweeting us. I'm still stunned by Jack isn't a real name. It's a great take. And also, I also like the guys that are named what they're named, but when you look at them, they don't look like their name. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't really look like a Eugene, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
What
am I, Carl? What am I?
You're Rick.
I'm Rick.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Rick Battaglia. You're not Gene or Eugene. You're Rick. Rick Battaglia with me, Mike Danger, here in the Sports Bar. Jack isn't a real name. And if you have the name Jack, you might not look like your name. Jack that tweets us, though, looks like a Jack.
Yeah, that looks like a Jack.
Yeah.
Jack, you're cool.
But it's not your real name, Jack. We want confirmation if Jack is actually short for, what did you say, Jonathan?
John or Jonathan. but these parents that name the kids Jack, I just,
Yeah.
For the life of me, the first time you said that, I didn't know that Jack was short for Jonathan. That Jack was a nickname that was given to people named Jonathan. I had no idea.
And shame on me for thinking that no way with your dexterity on the board that you can find that on the fly while we're doing live radio.
The Take of the Year nominee from last year, Gino. It should have won, if we're being honest. I mean, it didn't win because Maggie Gray made us feel like horrible Bills fans and absolutely predicted exactly what was going to happen to the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, saying that 13 seconds was as good as it was going to get.
Yeah,
that was a little prophetic by Maggie Gray there from Maggie and Perloff. So she won the award, although Jack is not a real name, has legs. That'll stick around for forever. That's not going anywhere. Jack is not a real name. It's so good. So Jack F. Florio will be joining us. No, I'm sorry. Jonathan is what you would shorten, not Michael. Mike is Michael. Jack is Jonathan. Okay.
So he's really John Eichel.
Jonathan Eichel.
And then, yes, you could say Gene is not a real name, too.
It's not, because you're not a Eugene. You're Rick. You're Rick Battaglia.
No, Rick isn't Rick. That's a Richard.
Okay.
Nobody names their kid Rick.
Okay. Well, then we'll give you another one. Let's see. Scott Battaglia.
Oh, Scott Battaglia.
Scott Battaglia. I don't know. That's I don't even remember what got us on Jack is not a real name. But here we are.
I do. Our guest coming up, which she's probably in her car getting ready to turn around and leave.
Like, what are we doing? Why am I wasting time with these clowns?
Liz Masterson.
I promise we'll talk to her about soccer. That's coming up here in a little bit. You can join us at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Not to put you on the spot, Gino, but you did open by saying, would any of us get up at 4 a.m. to watch the Open? Do we have a leaderboard? Do we know who's doing well at Royal Troon?
Yeah, and I'm trying. I'm assuming they're done, Danger, because actually, yeah, they're saying. Okay, so Shane Lowry right now is your clubhouse leader of 500. So there you go. That's our lead. 60-60 shot today. The leaderboard I'm looking at, there's still players on the course right now. So I don't know if it's getting called for darkness or just how it works over there. Daniel Brown at 4 under, he is through 13. As we were watching the wrong thing here in the studio.
Well, is that an NBC product?
Yes.
Oh, so it's probably
it was on Peacock. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're not finding it.
All right, fair enough. So Lowry?
Yeah, Lowry. Oh, the guy that we used to like in Rochester, we don't anymore.
He who shall not be named.
7 over.
What do you think of that? Huh? How's that karma taste?
John Daly, 11 over. You're only 4 shots better than John Daly.
Yeah. and he's hammered.
He's smoking a dart.
And he's hammered. How does that feel? You don't do that to Rochester royalty. How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Tiger shot a 79 today. Not looking too good. That's 8 over for you scoring at home.
Scheffler?
Scheffler, as I'm going to go the other direction. Stand by, Danger. He's not on my leaderboard.
Okay.
But Scotty Scheffler.
Scheffler and Finau.
He was
the
the 5-1. He's through 17 at even. So that's right in the mix.
And
5 for 7.
yesterday it was Tony Finau that PJ said he was backing. Or somebody that you could back.
Tony Finau, same deal. He's even through. He's in the clubhouse.
Very good.
71 today.
There's your update from the Open.
Royal Troon.
Let's welcome in our next guest here in the Sports Bar, Liz Masterson, women's soccer coach at RIT. We'll talk a little international soccer with RIT's women's soccer coach. Next, you can join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Sports Update.
Trade today in the NBA. Russell Westbrook goes from the Clippers to Utah. Utah's going to buy out his contract. Westbrook expected to sign with the Denver Nuggets. This according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Round one of the Open. That's golf's final major of the year. And your clubhouse leader at 566, that's Shane Lowry. Tiger Woods today, not good, a 79. Rory McIlroy, a 7 over 77. Buffalo Bills practice begins in full coming up next Wednesday, July 24th. Major League Baseball releasing the 2025 schedule. The Cubs and Dodgers to open up in Japan. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com. Today, get half off the Lasertron in Henrietta. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome back into the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free to download Odyssey app and on your smart device. When you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, we welcome in for the first time her inaugural visit into the sports bar, RIT women's soccer coach Liz Masterson. Liz, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah, Liz, I want to talk all about soccer. We brought you in, but the big story last night, there's nothing going on last night. You had Caitlin Clark dropping 19 assists, WNBA record, and you did something that if Danger and I were in that window, we would have done. We're just out of that window because our daughters are too old now. What did you do for your daughter this past year?
Well, during the NCAA championships, after the semifinal, we woke up on Saturday morning and we said, Cleveland's just not that far away and something pretty awesome is happening there. So we bought some tickets and we went to the NCAA finals for the women. And that was the best show around. Like, who knows when something that special would happen again in driving distance. So we got in the car, we went down and saw the game, and it was incredible.
Great memory to make for the rest of your lives and your daughter's life as well, and a great role model for her to check out. I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. When you see what she's meant to the game, do you have an opinion on her being left off the women's basketball team for the Olympics coming up here?
Well, I guess I think that everyone's trying to win, right? So I imagine that the coaches know who's going to be the best chance of winning, and if it was going to be Caitlin, that they would take her. I mean, I'm not a basketball specialist in any way. I love watching Caitlin Clark play. I think she's amazing for the game, and I'm sure she'll be a major, major part of the team for a really long time. And maybe they just assume they're the experts, so I assume they chose the team that they thought they could win with right now.
Yeah. We brought you in to talk soccer. So Liz Masterson is the head coach for our RIT, the women's soccer coach. Okay, so explain to me, how could we be so great at all these sports, yet for men's soccer, like at some point it's going to click, right? Like, give us like the state right now, because I'm kind of removed from the fandom of soccer. Danger's much more into it than I am, but why can't we get this right? Are they going to get this right with a new head coach?
Well, I think we have a really good opportunity right now. Like, Greg Berhalter brought the team to this place where, the talent seems to be there for the most part. Maybe not as much depth as we would like to have, but hopefully now, these players were trying to get experience, and now they have experience, and I think the expectations are going up, so they want a coach who can start getting results.
So Liz, when you see the Euro final, and it's Spain and it's England, and you watch the brand of soccer that's being played there, and then you watch Team USA struggle and not make it into the knockout round of the Copa, it feels like two different sports that they're playing. It feels like that, it's just such a difference in talent level. And I know a lot of people will say, well, yeah, what do you expect? In America, our best athletes are playing basketball or football or what, they're not playing soccer. Their best athletes are playing. Is that an excuse? Does that resonate? Does that make sense? Or is that That's a scapegoat, and like, no, we just don't have that level that they have
Yeah.
overseas.
I wish we could see the USA play against European teams more often. I think just our geography makes it really difficult because our tournaments are Copa America and CONCACAF, and so we don't have direct comparisons, and we're not constantly playing on those fields. We're playing on the fields that the Copa America was on, and so it's hard to say. I just wish we had more direct comparisons and could just see our guys competing against the names that we know from the famous leagues.
We're talking to Liz Masterson. She is the head coach for RIT, the women's soccer program. And, the Women's World Cup last time, I think it was a disaster. I mean, where the bar is set in our country. And kind of a loaded question, but, like, what happened? Was that an aberration, or is this the new reality here that actually the world kind of caught up to us?
Probably, I don't know, probably a little of both. I think American soccer for women is still just incredibly healthy. The sheer number of players and the talent that we have in this country is just unbelievable, which causes, I think it makes it hard to narrow down sometimes, or just, scout talent and build teams and compete at a really high level. But I agree. I thought from a performance perspective, it was rough. It was hard to watch. It just never felt like the team ever found any rhythm or flow, and was never building towards anything, and you couldn't really figure out what was coming. Is this all going to amount to anything? And it clearly didn't.
Has it changed since then? Do you feel like in the time that's passed since the World Cup, as we head into the Paris Games, that the U.S. women's national team is poised to make a run for gold?
Well, I thought over the past year, since the World Cup ended, that they've been playing a little bit more freely, that they've been moving the ball without maybe so much thinking in their way, if that makes sense. Like that they've just clicked a little bit more. And I think the knock against the most recent game against Costa Rica was that they just didn't finish. And Emma Hayes said something along the lines of, we're doing everything else, except for that final piece. And I would say going into a major tournament, if the piece that you're missing is finishing, hopefully early on in the tournament, some of your bigger players can see the back of the net and, get some confidence. But it looks a lot more connected. It looks a lot freer. It looks a lot more in flow than it did a year ago.
I wish the Olympics were right now. Honestly, but now the IOC is not going to bend to our schedule here in the All-Star break, and what do they care? But that being said, Liz, handicap the women's side here for the Olympics. It's the United States, and who else would you say has a good chance of winning?
Well, I think Spain is just the team on the men's and women's side is just setting the bar in terms of results, but also the style of play. Like, they're the ones who are putting it together in both ways.
When you watch Spain, whether it be the men's side or the women's side, I haven't watched enough of the women's side of the Spanish side to know if they're playing a similar style, but I watch enough Spanish football during the course of the Euros to see, like, they possess, they pass, they finish. They wear down their opponents just by possessing and not giving it up and not turning the ball over. Is the Spanish women's team built in a similar fashion?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, frankly.
How do you beat that? How do you knock them off their game?
Well, I think you have to be really good in your transition moments. Because if they're going to have the ball a lot more than you are, then if you're going to give it back right away, you're going to wear out. And I think you need to be able to take advantage of, when you win it, you need to be really purposeful in those moments. And then you need to have you have to be able to accept the fact that you're going to be okay not having the ball. And I think the United States has always, the knock has been, oh, well, they're athletic and they're not tactical enough. And I think what I've seen over the past year is them embracing their athletic ability more, and pressing really well as a unit again and using that as an advantage. So I would say without the ball, they've been really, really good.
Abby has been away from the game for a while, and we always think of her and hold her in high regard. And it feels to me like they haven't really replaced somebody with that kind of physical stature that could just go up and get it in a set piece. Is there anybody on Team USA that comes close to replacing that kind of production that we grew accustomed to during the Abby Wambach years?
I think their aerial presence is Lindsey Horan, but I don't know that there's a player like her in the world.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah, too bad. I mean, my gosh, we were talking about this yesterday, how we had this right down the road, not to change the topics, but while we bring up Abby Wambach, did you ever think we would see a women's pro team in the United States go for $250 million? I feel like we missed the boat on the NWSL. I'm like, oh, shoot, we had that in our grasp. It was a lot of fun while I was here.
I remember going to a game and watching Marta and Christine Sinclair, and Alyssa Nair was the goalkeeper. I mean, the team was just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we knew it at the time here in Rochester, what we had when we had it.
But not enough people. We knew it, but not enough people went. Is that what it comes down to?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, just didn't make the money.
Yeah.
Sad. We're talking with Liz Masterson. She's the RIT women's soccer coach. Giving us a little primer here as we look forward to both the men's and women's national teams. Are the men in the Olympics? Is there a qualify? How does it work for the Olympics? You know, Liz, if there's a qualifying thing for the Olympics, or is it just open it up? Like, if you want to go, you go. Your team is in, and we'll put you in a tournament, and that will be that. I'm curious. We know
they're taking on France on Wednesday in Group A.
The men. Okay. Well, that'll be fun.
Good luck.
It's different for the men because you have to be under 23, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
So it's, it's a
and for the women, it is not that.
Correct. For the women, it's the full national team.
Okay.
But I think the field is so much smaller.
Yes.
That you have somebody, I think England isn't even in it, and they were in the finals of the World Cup.
Really?
And didn't qualify for the Olympics.
Really?
Mm.
That's interesting. So Spain is a team to look out for on the women's side, and if anybody and what about some of the other names that we kind of grew familiar with as far as like rivals of the U.S. women's national team, the Australias and the Brazils? How have they progressed here over the course of time since we last saw Team USA win a World Cup?
Well, Australia had an amazing World Cup, and they're in our group, which will be a really tough game, and I think our group is very difficult. Sweden is just always a thorn in our side,
mm-hmm.
and always there at the end, it seems like. And there's a lot of, again, just the parity is especially when you only have 12 teams in the field. It'll be anybody's game.
Now, Liz, you're originally from Colorado. I did not know this. You chose St. Lawrence to play soccer and hockey. Like, wow. Hockey today is like, that is really taken off on the women's side. How did you leave hockey behind then? It didn't work out for you, or you feel this was the better path?
Well, I went to St. Lawrence, and I was about 1 week into classes and playing soccer, and I needed to go from soccer practice to hockey practice. And in the same day, I was going to have to do that kind of schedule where I was at soccer for 2 hours and then I'd go to hockey afterwards. And soccer was awesome. Like, I was having the time of my life. Everything was going well with the team. I also knew where I'd probably be at on the hockey roster. It was a Division I team, and it was my second sport. So I think I was kind of like, I'll just put all my eggs in this basket. This seems to be going pretty well.
Do you still play hockey at all?
I don't. I would love to.
So that's my sport. I grew up in Minnesota, so that was you play hockey or you do nothing, you perish. So that's really all there is to it. So St. Lawrence, you're there, you're playing soccer. What leads you to Rochester? What leads you to RIT?
So after I finished playing at St. Lawrence, I just didn't feel done yet. I felt like I still had a lot more improvements to make, and I wanted to continue with the game. So I played for one season in the WPSL. There wasn't a lot going on professionally at that time. There was no professional league. And so I moved to Massachusetts and played a summer there. I moved to Rochester, and I played for the Rhinos for 3 seasons.
Oh, nice.
During that span when the Rhinos had a women's team.
Yeah.
And played with a lot of amazing players from the area. and that time I started coaching. I was without a team for about a year, and then when I started with the Rhinos, I just knew I needed soccer and a team in my life, and that's when I took a grad assistant position, and I tried my hand at this profession.
Wow, you're like one of the forefathers of women's soccer here, like one of the leaders. I mean, would you look back and the travel and the accommodations, and I'm not guessing there was any pay at that point then when you were playing either.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of really passionate women who loved to play and loved the game, and sometimes, there were players coming back from college who were playing in the summertime and staying fit for their college programs. But it was such a great, looking back at the names of the people that were on that team and who came in and out of trainings and through the seasons, it really is a collection of incredible Rochester soccer women.
So, Liz, being a part of that culture of soccer, late 90s, early 2000s, we all remember it really, really well. What is the state of soccer in our community today, in your opinion, versus what it was then? Because we all remember that, and I think we all long for that, and I know that we don't have that right now. Where are we at as far as trying to build and develop and grow again as a soccer community in terms of our fandom?
Well, the thing that that just came to mind was that in '99 the women had the Women's World Cup, and I was 16, and my soccer team went to California and went to that finals and saw Brandy Chastain. And
wow,
that was just such a powerful moment as a young person to watch that game happen. But I think we're at a point where the players themselves are doing a really good job of connecting with the younger players. Caitlin Clark and the WNBA are kind of dominating right now, I would say, in that regard. But I think the U.S. Women's National Team in particular has an unbelievable following and loyalty and high expectations.
New stadium at RIT. How's that coming along here? I haven't been over on campus in a few months here. So what's that going to be like? What's the timeline? Is that kind of your recruiting pitch here as you're talking to potential Tigers on your team?
Yeah, we're really excited. Every time I pull onto campus, it looks a little different, and there's things going up, and there's construction, and there's things being dug up, and it looks like there's lots of progress being made. I think it'll be a state-of-the-art stadium for soccer and lacrosse. And it'll just be an incredible environment to play in, with the stands so close to the field, and just really give you kind of a different environment where you feel like the fans are really a part of it. And it should be finished up, I think, like probably fall to winter of 2024 or 2025. Okay. Yeah.
What's our surface, and do you have a preference?
It's field turf, and we've been on it for about 2 years now, and it plays really similarly to grass. I prefer grass, but it's tough up here, especially because we spent a few seasons hosting the NCAA tournament with mud in our goal mouths, and so some might call it a home field advantage, and others feel differently about it, but I think it allows us to play longer.
Danger, let's see. I'm going to wind up with a fastball here. Let me see if I can get this by her. When does RIT go Division I?
You'll have to ask the boss. The bosses.
Liz, it's great having you in. We wish you best of luck this upcoming season. We're not let you go without having one of those fried cakes from our friends.
Try them. Yeah,
Shoots
delicious.
Apple Mill. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Fried cakes are amazing.
They are really good. You have to take at least one on your way out the door, though, because we've already had.
The thing I learned today, I was over there helping shoot a video. Did you know, like, one crate of apples can create 65 gallons of cider?
I did not know that, Gene.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that information.
Right. Delicious.
It is delicious. You guys do a great job over there as well. Love the fried cakes. Liz, it's great having you in with us here on the Sports Bar. Let's do it again soon.
Definitely.
You got it.
There she is, Liz Masterson, RIT, women's soccer coach, stopping by the Sports Bar. Take a break, come back. We have more next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Yeah, this is The Fan, Rochester.
I just did the Collins.
Oh, you're doing the Collinsworth slide for the video stream? Very nice, Gene. You can watch the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. We're streaming on Twitch as well, and we always sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. Second worst day on the sports calendar. I mean, at least we had round one of the Open to give us something earlier today.
Oh, don't worry, because baseball dropped their schedule on us.
Oh, that's right.
I think they want us
yes.
to talk about 2025.
Yeah. Forgot about that. There is a couple of morsels from the NFL, most notably Jason Wright transitioning out of his role with the Washington Commanders as president and set to depart the organization entirely by the end of this upcoming season. So as of right now, he will serve as a senior advisor to Josh Harris, and he'll focus his efforts on the team's search for a new stadium site, along with naming rights. Partner Harris has already begun his search for the next president of the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, no, the next president is not – Jason Wright's really not going to be – when they say serve as an advisor, meaning – it's a buyout. We got to give you some sort of title. Like, does anybody believe that Bruce Arians actually does anything of note with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? No. Listen, you're done. You know, Tom Brady, if he's going to come back, you need to be out, but we need to do this right. We're still going to pay you. Go over there and be at the kids' table and pretend like you're doing something. Like, to me, Jason Wright, it's not a surprise. He was Dan Snyder's president.
That's right.
Why wasn't he let go the second he bought the team? This should have been expected last year. So, to me, there's one job and one job only of the new president. Get a stadium deal. I would contend that right now, that stadium that the Commanders play in all the four sports, is the worst. Outdated, rundown, not making money. Well, what about the Oakland A's? I'm talking about teams that don't have a plan. The A's supposedly have a plan to Vegas. The Tampa Bay Rays have their new stadium. Heck, even the Jacksonville Jaguars got their stadium funding. So name me a team with a worse stadium right now without a plan than Washington.
Chicago's up there. They're talking. He's still trying. Kevin Warren is still trying to finagle some money out of the state, and they're just not budging. It's been a challenge to get that state money that is, so easy for the Pagulas to wrangle, and down in Jacksonville they got some of that state money, and in Tennessee certainly, but in Illinois they're not giving up that state money, and the Bears are in a little bit of trouble.
Even that stadium in Chicago is better off than what you got in Washington.
Agreed. But it is funny, man. And every time I have this conversation with somebody who isn't necessarily a football fan, and I explain to them the jack that is happening right now with the new stadium, when I explain it to them and just give them the facts, it really makes all of us seem like we're ridiculous.
Yeah,
what is
sheep.
Wrong with us?
Yeah.
We are addicts. We are uncurable addicts when you consider that they're not double dipping, they're not triple dipping, they're quadruple dipping on us, laughing all the way to the bank while we swim in a ocean of debt to the team that we want to root for. It starts with the state money. It goes to the PSL.
The financing of the PSL.
The financing of the PSL. I mean, and that's before you talk about buying the season ticket, right? The PSL leads to the season tickets, leads to the financing of all of it with that big, interest rate tacked on to the financing. I mean, what is wrong with us? So to the people of Illinois, and I guess to the people of California who saw Kroenke build a stadium with his own money, there is something to that. No. Billionaires should build their own stadiums. What are we doing here?
Right. So was actually Buffalo the tipping point? Because I'm fascinated how this isn't rhetoric. This is pretty much Illinois resetting the terms here. No, you want to build in downtown Chicago, great.
It's like Illinois government looked at this fancy presentation that showed this beautiful park and everything. The artist renderings were magnificent. And they basically said, that's cute. No.
Like the park with the bike trail.
Yeah.
No, it has nothing to do. Oh, let's get the pastor. That was my favorite part. Let us pray. Like, what do we, the pastor's going to pray for?
Yeah, that guy's going to have to pray for his soul. I can't believe that he's up there asking for prayers to help a billionaire build a stadium in Chicago. So I just think that when you break it down and you share that information with somebody who isn't a football fan or doesn't have an allegiance to the NFL, they look at you sideways like, why would anybody sign up for that? Why would anybody? Well, because we're addicts. That's the only reason I can come up with.
But when we walk into that new stadium in 2026,
it'll be magnificent.
We'll forget about all of it. We look at the Buffalo statue on the outside, and we'll
be tripping over our tongues. It'll be amazing. Randall Cobb hasn't officially announced any retirement from the NFL, but it was announced by ESPN today that the former Jets, Cowboys, Packers receiver, Texans as well.
Yeah.
He's going to be a studio analyst for the SEC network. Now, you'll remember that Cobb, before his pro career, was a two-time All-SEC player at Kentucky. He was a second-round pick of the Packers in 2011. He'll start his gig this fall, so it would appear that Randall Cobb's playing days in the NFL are over.
Honest question, how much do you think he makes for that? Do you think it's six figures, or do you think it's a per diem thing?
I think it's probably six figures. I would look to make an educated guess. I'd want to see what his last deal was in the NFL, and then say, all right, well, if he was making that, then what would he be comfortable making doing?
I would say probably a third. So let's see.
Looking it up on Spot Track.
Yeah. Thank you. What do we do before Spot Track?
Guess.
Yeah. Just throw out numbers and don't source it. He got a $250,000 signing bonus, and his base was 2.25 last year. So signing bonus, the guarantee was only $250,000. Half of that.
Half of 250?
Yeah, I think that would be.
So 125?
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Heck, the SEC, just swimming in money.
Well, this is part of what why ESPN is kind of like upside down, right? They not only to pay for the rights for all of this, the broadcasting and all the partners that they have, but also the talent. Like, you keep investing in former professional athletes who are accustomed to making a big dollar. They're not going to work for nothing. You have to kind of give them a big dollar.
It may be, and this is over my head, admittedly, but I always wonder that. Like, if you're going to cut costs, why do you need the pregame where you have one table and six people squeezed around one table? They're all the same now. But just give me content. Like, why can't you have like two people and a fun conversation, or three people and bring in some video? Why do you need all those names on there if you're paying all those?
The question is, the answer is you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. But you grow accustomed to this formula that has been created over the course of time. I mean, hell, you remember growing up watching the NFL Today on CBS with Phyllis George and Irv Cross and Jimmy the Greek. You had and of course the GOAT Brett. You have every kind of like stereotype that you want for every studio show now. Maybe less emphasis on, well, that's not even true, because now with legalized sports wagering, you do have an emphasis on some of that, and there will be a segment undoubtedly, where you have, we're going to tell you about the spreads. We're going to tell you who we like. We're going to share some fantasy tips.
Kidding me? Jimmy the Greek.
Yeah.
Pete Axtell.
The best. We'll take a break here and come back with more next. It's a slow day on the sports calendar, but thank God for baseball.
Well, yeah, and thank God for, because he did it again, our favorite ESPN talking head, Jeremy Fowler, the unnamed exec. He's got another unnamed executive.
Oh.
Giving another take, and this is indirectly related to the Buffalo Bills.
Who's in Jeremy Fowler's ear? This is very curious to me.
Why are we signing off on this stuff? You know what's funny? You know what's going to happen here, Danger? As soon as training camps open and we're going to have actual quotes and actual practices, sad to say actual injuries, things that actual news, right? These will not be stories come, but in the interim,
that's what we're dealing with.
That's what we're dealing with.
Michael F. Florio of NFL Network will talk some fantasy football here in about 25 minutes as well. You can join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Round one of the Open, golf's final major of the year, and Shane Lowry is your clubhouse leader at 5 under 66. At the other end, Rory McIlroy, 7 over 77.
Yeah, difficult day. I felt like I did, okay for the first part of the round, and then, missed the green at the postage stamp there and left it in and made a double, but still felt like I was in, reasonable enough shape, being a couple over through 9.
Tiger Woods with a 79 today. We got a trade in the NBA. Russell Westbrook going from the Clippers to Utah. He's not staying in Utah. They're going to buy out his contract. Westbrook expected to sign with the Denver Nuggets. This according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Bills rookies at Fisher today. The first full practice coming up Wednesday, July 24th. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
This is that time of the year, right? I've always said kind of once the Open Championship wraps up, guys, it's kind of like just get us to the finish line. We're getting towards the end of July, and you're like, just get us to football season already.
Mike Danger.
Man, Wednesday can't get here soon enough. It's going to be a lot of fun hanging out at St. John Fisher, watching the guys get ready for a season. Bills Camp Live.
Gene Battaglia.
Summer's over, and we cannot wait. First practice out at camp. I wish they would give us a little peek behind the curtain with the rookie camp, because they're out there right now. Yeah, like the rookies are out there, but not allowed out there.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
There is an NFL team that has had their training camp start already. They're already underway, full team. The Houston Texans are at camp. We're getting glimpses of Stephon Diggs in his new environment. I still don't like it. Still doesn't sit well with me.
It's like, how is that possible? Oh, yeah. That's right, because they're on the opener, and it's the way the NFL allows you to open up camp. It's the X number of days from your season opener. But because the Bills open up on a Sunday, the Texans open up on a Thursday, the Texans have a little bit of a head start here.
So seeing the Texans in camp, hearing all the noise around Houston, they've become this kind of like conference darling because nobody expected them to do what they did last year with a rookie quarterback who showed a ton of promise, obviously, and a team that made it to the divisional round of the AFC playoffs last year, just like the Buffalo Bills. There's a lot of people that are buying in, given the new additions to what the Houston Texans could be this year. But there is still an executive in the NFL who questions whether or not Gene, what are you doing here? I'm in the middle of saying something, and we're doing a live show. What kind of professional environment? Oh, God, here he is.
Like, look at this. This is our first drive up.
So, all right, if you're new to the show, we recently moved studios. Our studio view in our old studio.
There you go, Greg driving off.
That's one of our regulars, Greg. He's got one of those 3-wheeler jobs. And what did the sign say? Chuck
Muncie was here.
This guy.
Greg hung up.
Yeah.
He just did a drive-by.
So he just Chuck Muncied you, Gene.
He did.
He just Chuck Muncied. Let me draw these again here.
I'm sorry for I wouldn't drop everything and blatantly ignore your point.
No,
Danger.
it's complete
disrespect for you.
No, it's just unprofessional. I just thought you were just more of a professional than that, Gino. Got distracted by Chuck Muncie again. This is the guy that has haunted you your entire radio career. There he is. He's over your shoulder. He's always watching, and he's still. Nothing has changed from your time at Fordham. Chuck Muncie still rattles you.
Greg, nice ride he had there, too.
Great pull, Greg. Thanks for throwing Gene completely off his axis. Here we are talking about training camp and the Houston Texans and what's going to happen here.
If you call us, chances are I'm picking up. Because our producer, he's off today. She's off tomorrow.
We don't have a producer.
Okay. Full disclosure, we don't have a producer. Greg, Gene, I'm right outside your window.
Nothing creepy about that, Greg.
I'm like, wait a second, hold on.
Nothing creepy about that. I'm watching you guys. And I brought my friend Chuck Muncie with me. Greg. Trying to do a show here, Greg. A lot of people tuning in. Don't need to hear Chuck Muncie. Well done.
Oh, thank you. About Diggs in Houston, Danger. It is the final days of this manufactured kind of window here. So is this real news? Is this a manufactured story? I leave it to you to decide, because the same guy, Jeremy Fowler, who brought you the anonymous NFL executive bashing Josh Allen, which he was, we debated that, and that got a lot of run there for 72 hours. Now comes this, quote, anonymous NFL talent evaluator who questions how Steph Diggs in Houston is going to work. Quote, I questioned Diggs' fit in Houston. They've already got plenty in the passing game with Nico Collins and Tank Dell and Dalton Schultz, and you wonder how his personality fits with a young nucleus. Okay, all of it's true to wonder about. Danger, is it also fair to wonder who gave that quote?
Yes.
Could it be the guy, could it be the same guy who gave the quote about Allen? Gave the quote about Diggs.
I think that Brandon Beane had a couple in him, happened to run into Jeremy Fowler, and just spilled his guts and said, you know what? You can't, I'm unnamed. No, you can't.
No, he doesn't say you know what.
Listen.
Listen.
This conversation didn't happen. But let me tell you something.
Listen.
I want you to talk about how Josh is overrated so we can let a fire under his ass. And while you're at it, let's bury Diggs.
When I'm telling you, like, he is one of the most misunderstood athletes, how his personality fits, he's going to be just fine in that offense.
I think he's going to be fine. I mean, when you see footage of Diggs at Texans training camp, all I can think of is this guy probably doesn't want to be at Texans training camp right now. Like, he's been in the NFL long enough, and he's one of these guys is like, I'll come, I'll be a good teammate, but you know he doesn't want to be there. Like, a lot of guys, a lot of veteran guys don't want to be at camp, but they'll put on the face and they'll be a good teammate and say, like, oh, yeah, I love it here.
That's why, look, everybody here in Rochester, listen. Get some thick skin next week, okay? Because if by chance you hear a bill, I don't know if this will happen, but there will be a day where some bill doesn't give the glowing recommendation of Rochester or training camp or whatever it is. Remember, it's their job. Would they rather be at home with their family, or maybe even so, would they rather be working out of the facility and going home and sleeping in their own bed in Buffalo? So put it into that context. Everybody next week, get some thick skin. We have this thing where you have to love us here.
Even Brandon Beane didn't say, I love Rochester. He still love coming to camp, but he didn't give the reasons why he loved Rochester. He gave the reasons why he loved coming to camp.
Right.
Because I don't have to, listen to my wife tell me to go to the CVS to pick up the prescription, and I don't have to, watch the kids, be around them, and
no worries about night fees.
Yeah, right. They might not even care about our community. In fact, I would venture to guess the thing that they're there for, that they're excited the most about, is the golf course right down the street. That's probably what makes it appealing to them. We love coming to camp. No, we love you love golfing at Oak Hill is what you love doing.
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't? So, yeah, they may never truly say what they think about our community, and honestly, that's fine. I mean, a player like Jonnu Smith openly rips Buffalo. It's easy to fire back and be like, oh, well, who's he? Who cares? I do not care. I do not care.
Like, I point to, if you had to go to who, when it comes to comedy and just the sarcasm, what's the word I'm looking for, Danger? That brand of comedy. Satire. It's The Simpsons, right?
Mm-hmm.
When The Simpsons did their bit on Western New York, check that, upstate New York, it was funny. You had to laugh. If you can't laugh, I can't help you. But, oh my gosh, every Chamber of Commerce, the Simpsons writers don't know the spirit here that we have here in Rochester or Utica. And so we invite them to come and see what we're really all about.
There's truth to that. It is a hard thing to explain to an outsider how there's a quality of life here that they won't get. They just won't get it. So it's a hard thing to explain. And if people throw rocks from the outside, it's all right. Go ahead.
Back to the how does Diggs fit in Houston? Dalton Schultz. Like, really, we're worried about Dalton Schultz getting less targets. We're worried about Tank Dell. Tank Dell's a nice receiver. Nico Collins is good.
Yeah.
but Diggs is going to be just fine. I'd say this. Is this the best collection of wide receivers he's ever been around? Because when he came to Buffalo, you still had peak Beasley at that point. You had Gabe Davis coming up. Hell, you had Gabe Davis catch 4 touchdowns.
I'd argue peak Beasley was actually, his first year in Buffalo, maybe his last year in Dallas, right around there. I think at the end, he was still a big part. He was an easy target for Josh Allen to find with this separation. That's going to be fascinating to watch. The difference in these receivers' ability to separate versus guys like Diggs and Beasley. Shakir can do it a little. We haven't seen Samuel yet, but Samuel certainly feels like the kind of receiver that can separate. But Josh Allen has always had that, and now it almost feels like he's just got chuck up and get it guys.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's this train of thought that Curtis Samuel could be the underutilized superstar receiver that's never had the quarterback or the system. Or for folks that aren't watching DJ's face, you just kind of wince. You're like, you're not buying that.
I need to see it. Maybe, but I need to see it. Nothing like Major League Baseball. No games today. We're still in the All-Star break. I can't figure out for the life of me why they do some of the things that they do.
This is right at the top.
We talk about the NFL and their schedule release. They'll slowly share it out over the course of a week, their highlights, and then they turn it into a full release that happens in a primetime special. Each team is coinciding with a social media schedule reveal video. Baseball, nope. Random ass July afternoon. The current season isn't even close to being over. Did you know that the baseball schedule for 2025 was released today? I'll answer it for you. Gene, you didn't know. I told you about it before we got on the air, and you're like, what? Yes. And they do this every year. It's almost as if they do it knowing, like, hey, we're going to surprise you. Surprise! Here's our schedule. It's like, we didn't ask for this, and we don't need it.
We don't. Can you take a cue from the NFL? The NFL, in a week, they shouldn't own the news cycle. It should be dominated by the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs. And I don't know, what's the other sport? Baseball! You lose the news cycle to the NFL because they leak a game here, they leak a game there. We speculate. Who should the Bills open against? Blah, 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 blah. That's the first week in May, folks. Or actually, it was the second week in May this year. But here's baseball today because nothing else is going on. Here you go. Yankee fans, you open up March 27th against Milwaukee at home. Buy your tickets now. What? Why am I looking forward to March 27th, by the way? Time out on that.
Yeah.
Like it's beautiful out right now. I don't want to be looking ahead to gloomy March.
What a nice surprise. A baseball schedule in the middle of a baseball schedule. I know that 162 is way more than 17 and the challenges that presents. Baseball needs to prioritize making their schedule release more than just a news dump. That's what it feels like today. It's like, no, there's nothing going on here. Have this. 2025 schedule. What do you think? What about that opening game in Japan between the Dodgers and the Cubs?
Well, this is the other part that's really weird. You would release this for money, right? Right?
I would think so.
Okay, where do I click on to buy tickets?
Oh, you don't have any of that information?
No, they're not selling tickets for 2025 yet.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Sorry. Here you go. Hey, you like that schedule? You like that matchup coming up on a holiday weekend?
Who is ass this year in Major League Baseball? Like, is this what the Miami Marlins ticket office is? Look, ring, ring. Hey, yeah, this is Joe from the Marlins. Look, we're really bad this year, but let me tell you something. 2025, it's all going to be different. You want to buy your tickets now?
We got to give a shout out to our guy Max, who took a clip from earlier this week, shared it on social media.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, we talk about Gene's Mets fandom from time to time here in the sports bar, and the ongoing back and forth between Gino and the icon 13 Wham Sports Mike Catalana, a Phillies fan, and Dan Fates to a secondary degree, a Braves fan. This NL East rivalry that we have between the three fandoms is, for me as an outsider, so entertaining.
Well, what has me excited is hey, if this you talk about wins above replacement as a stat, how about fandom above replacement? Like we are exceeding expectations for the Mets. The fact that they're the third wild card.
I would like to add to that. It's fandom above replacement today. The acronym for that is FART. It doesn't matter. Okay.
well, I thought, I'm going to just be honest here. I thought I outwitted Catalana by just taking away his easy things, his low-hanging fruit. Hey, you're a Met fan at the circus with the cotton candy and the ice cream, and you guys get all excited. And then he hits me in the middle of that with, well, you probably go to all your Met fan meetings, and you get all excited.
I liked they're just good enough to rip your heart out or to crush your soul, I think is what he said. They're just good enough to crush your soul. Max, thanks for capturing that and sharing that with the world. Gene's fandom and Catalan. Just stay down. I warned you. I told you we shouldn't have gone there. I was trying to get us out of it. But you had to just jump in. And you do it to yourself, buddy. Do it to yourself.
No way. Let's go.
Michael F. Florio will talk some fantasy football from the NFL Network's fantasy football guru, joining us next on The Fan.
emergency updates on 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester is presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile and you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. Use their savings calculator to find out how at T-Mobile.com/switch.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Round 1 of the Open, golf's final major of the year, and Shane Lowry is 2 shots back of the leader. Actually, he is in the lead, 5 under 66. It's Justin Thomas, 2 shots back at 3 under.
Very satisfied. Not as satisfied as I'll be when I'm in sweatpants and sweatshirt this afternoon on the couch, but no, it's this is a proper Scottish day, and it was nice to get off to a good start.
Yeah, not good for Rory McIlroy, 7 over 77. Tiger Woods also struggling today. Tiger with a 79. Trade in the NBA, Russell Westbrook goes from the Clippers to the Utah Jazz. He's not going to stay in Utah. They're going to buy out his contract. Westbrook expected to sign with the Denver Nuggets. This according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Bills practice begins in full coming up next Wednesday. We'll talk some fantasy next with Michael F. Florio from the NFL Network. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
As soon as that last firework goes off, that's when the brain starts going into hyper gear there on the 4th of July. You start thinking fantasy football if you're anything like us here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. If you're anything like Michael F. Florio, you're always thinking about fantasy football. From the NFL Network, stopping by the Sports Bar to talk some fantasy as we get closer and closer to the start of camps, and the Texans in camp right now. Mike, how you been, bud?
I am good, and you are not wrong about that. I do my first fantasy football draft every year right after the Super Bowl, so it really is a year-round thing.
Yeah, you have to, because it's an exercise, and so much is fluid in fantasy football. What we think is true today, heck, what we think is true week 1, by the time we get to the midseason, we'll be thinking, what were we thinking back in the summer? One of the stories today, and it's from Jeremy Fowler, citing an anonymous source here, that wandering, and it's one of those manufactured stories, but I think it is kind of one of the storylines when it comes to fantasy football. Steph Diggs, as you know, last 5 years, he's only second to Devontae Adams in terms of number of targets in the league. He demands attention. If you're playing fantasy football, he's a great receiver to have, but in this new environment with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and it is a second-year quarterback, we assume that's going to step up here. The Diggs fit in Houston. Can we pencil him in for the same production? Michael F. Florio, how do you read that situation?
I don't think you could pencil him anywhere close to what he saw in Buffalo. He averaged 160 targets per year in Buffalo. I just don't see any way he will get that in Houston because, like you said, there's Nico Collins there. There's Tank Dell there. So Diggs is brought in to kind of push this team over the top. I also do view it as a quarterback downgrade. I think C.J. Stroud is awesome. The future is very bright in Houston. But Josh Allen is a top 2, maybe at worst 3 quarterback walking the planet right now. So I think that is a downgrade there. And then we saw Diggs in the second half last year really fall off, start to disappear, wasn't a big part of the offense. And the long ball. I know there was a couple where Josh Allen missed him. We all remember the one against the Chiefs that went through his hands. So that was C.J. Stroud's strength last year, was the deep ball. And if Diggs is losing a step on that deep ball, then I think he'll become more of a move-the-chains possession type of receiver, whereas Nico Collins and Tank Dell will be your big play, your splash play guys. And because of that and because of where they're going in drafts, right now, Nico Collins, Steph Diggs going very close to each other. You get about a round discount on Tank Dell. They're all gone by the 4th round in early drafts right now, by the end of the 4th. So because of that, I like Nico Collins the most, and I think Diggs might be a safe floor, but it very well could be where he's like a wide receiver 3 in fantasy, and you're not getting any of those vintage huge Stephon Diggs games.
Michael, you mentioned the drop against Kansas City in the postseason. I know you have a little bit of an allegiance here to the Bills. I wanted to get your take on the Buffalo Bills offense heading into this fantasy football season. You already touched on Allen, and I think a lot of people have him as the number 1 quarterback coming off the board. What about the rest of the assets on the offensive side of the ball for the Bills coming up this season, and how much of a Bills tax are we locally going to have to pay on some of these guys?
They'll probably be going cheaper out. So Josh Allen is still going to be QB1, but I don't know if he's going to be as expensive as he was last year because, like you said, there are some question marks about his playmakers there. If you want Dalton Kincaid, you got to pay up for him. But as for this Bills offense, I would not be surprised if there's growing pains early on because you're taking someone like Stephon Diggs, who is good for 10 targets a game, and now you're asking him to be replaced by a bunch of young players. Keon Coleman is a rookie. Khalil Shakir really showed a lot of promise down the stretch last year, but now we have to see, can he take that next step and be a go-to guy in this offense? And then there's Curtis Samuel, who I know a lot of people are excited about. He had success with Joe Brady. I think he's a really good real-life piece. Not sure he puts up the biggest numbers fantasy-wise, but I think it'll be different than what we've seen. I don't think we're going to see it just run through one guy anymore. I think Allen is going to spread the ball out. I think Kincaid will be his go-to guy, but Knox will get involved. The running backs will get involved. And my thing, I keep sitting on this, but if Josh Allen goes out and has a regular Josh Allen season without Stephon Diggs, it's time that we give this guy his MVP.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying that all along. I mean, maybe this forces him to redistribute the ball better. Maybe it forces him to be a better quarterback. When we're looking at teams in the AFC East that can challenge Buffalo, we're all going to point to the Jets, right? The Jets' defense, but we didn't bring you on to talk defense. I mean, we'll talk fantasy, right? Because having that running back that you know can get the production. I mean, if you have the number one over pick, it's CMC, but is Breece Hall a worthy number 2 running back on any board? Like, can you pencil him in for that production, or are there just too many uncertainties about that Jet offense, specifically the quarterback and the offensive line? What are your thoughts about Breece Hall and the Jets offense overall, Michael?
I really like Breece Hall. To me, I think it's a 2-person race to be the second running back drafted. It's either Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson. And I lean Bijan of those two just because they're both very similar players in similar situations. Both have quarterbacks coming off of an Achilles. But Breece Hall has that knee injury in his past, whereas Bijan doesn't. So that's enough with it being so close for me to tip it Bijan's way. But, yeah, Breece Hall last year finished as the RB2 despite being brought on very slowly the first month of the season, despite having only one goal line carry. And obviously with Aaron Rodgers, you would expect there to be more scoring opportunities than there were with Zach Wilson. But the thing, I do think the Jets offense is more risky than I think a lot of other analysts out there do. Not only is Aaron Rodgers coming off of an Achilles, and I know technology has advanced in a big way since then, but you look at the last 30 years, the only quarterback to come back from an Achilles is Dan Marino. And he had a good year, and then he kind of started to dwindle. Aaron Rodgers is also 8 years older than Dan Marino was then. And like you said, the Jets added to their O-line, but they're also aging players who have missed a lot of time in the past. So I wouldn't be like – Rodgers could be Rodgers again, but he's going to be 41. He's coming up with a severe injury. I do think there's a lot more turmoil than people are saying because everyone's treating Aaron Rodgers like he's just going to come back and kind of be fine.
Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, stopping by the sports bar, talking some fantasy football. And the big headline from the last 48 hours, Mike, is Brandon Ayuk asking for a trade out of San Francisco. And I feel like we've seen this movie before. Do you think he stays in San Francisco? What kind of a distraction could this be in the preseason? And how is it affecting how you draft Ayuk for the 2024 season?
I personally am of the mindset that he will still be a member of the 49ers come this season. But if he wants to go anywhere, send him on to Buffalo, right? They could use some a proven wide receiver like that. But the reason I think he's going to be back, I think all of this is just because he wants to get paid. He wants, whether it be a long-term deal or he wants to maximize whatever he can make this season. But he is set to make over $14 million this year. He has made in his NFL career so far $12 million. So I don't see him turning down more money than he's ever made because he didn't get a long-term deal. I think he'll be willing to drag this out to see if he can get what he wants. But ultimately, I think the Niners know the situation they're in, which this is probably the last year that they will be able to keep this core together. They're going to have to choose Debo or Ayuk after this season. They're going to have to choose if they want to pay Brock Purdy. So I think all of that and how close they've been, they will be back to go for another run. But if he is gone, I think it greatly hurts Brock Purdy because Debo and Kittle are excellent underneath and in the intermediate area, but half of his completions of 20 or more yards and just around half of his deep yards and touchdowns have all gone to Brandon Ayuk, he had 1,300 yards on 105 targets last year, one of the most efficient wide receivers. So I think this is just a pairing that makes too much sense to break up this year. I think a year from now, the 49ers will look very different, but I think they know we've been so close. We want to give it one more shot and see if we can finish the deal.
Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, other platforms will tell you how to get more of his work as, hey, we're heading to the weekend tomorrow. Get reading, get watching Michael F. Florio. Question here about coordinators. How much weight, if any, do you put into good teams that are switching it up? And where I'm going with this question is Philadelphia, because they make 2 coordinator changes, and just like the last time. Okay, so they're bringing in Vic Fangio on defense. We didn't invite you to talk about defense here. Kellen Moore and the offense, this is a Philadelphia team overall. It just fizzled out last year when it mattered most, and that would be the fantasy playoffs. You bring in Saquon, but is that going to hurt other parts, specifically Jalen Hurts? What are your thoughts here about Philadelphia? Can this work, or are you cautious entering 2024?
I'm still choosing to trust the Philadelphia offense. The offensive coordinator always matters so much, and I think it is something that gets overlooked a little bit in fantasy football. Kellen Moore, though, is someone who does have a track record of success, even though the Chargers last year was a pretty brutal job. But he's also someone who likes to air out the ball and throw downfield. So I think this could be a blessing in disguise potentially for A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. I think Saquon is going to get Saquon-type numbers. I understand he won't be the focal point of the offense like he was with the Giants. He's not going to be the focal points of opposing defenses either, because you can lock in on Saquon, but were you going to just let Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown run free and Jalen Hurts do his thing? So more to account for than ever before. And then with the tush push, I know people are going to say, oh, he's going to lose touchdowns because of that. Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift had the same number of goal line touches last year. So even if Jalen Hurts is stealing some away from him, Saquon could get more just naturally on being on a better offense that'll give more scoring opportunities. Plus, I mean, no offense to the Giants, there was no one out there to worry about. It was 8 men in the box at all times against Saquon. You're not going to get that in Philly. So even with the new OC, I think the talent on this team wins out. And because of that, I'm still willing to trust them and draft these guys early in my fantasy draft.
Mike, do you have an offense that could surprise us this upcoming season? And conversely, do you have an offense that could disappoint us this upcoming season?
Surprise, I think the Arizona Cardinals. I am really bullish on them. I think Kyler Murray could be a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I think Marvin Harrison could be – I'm drafting him as a top 10 wide receiver. I would take him in the first round right now. That's how high I am on him. I think Trey McBride could be the best tight end in fantasy football. He was with Kyler Murray last year, even though it was just a 6-game sample size. He led the tight end position in points per game and targets share. So a lot of volume to go his way. I think James Conner is extremely, extremely underrated. And then one that could disappoint, I know we've kind of touched on them a bit, but I think it's the Jets. If Aaron Rodgers takes a step back, and now I know people are going to say, okay, last year the Achilles, the year prior, and now I know the year prior Devontae Adams wasn't there, and he broke his thumb halfway through the year. But Aaron Rodgers was brutal that last year. It was his worst year in the NFL. He was not usable in fantasy. He averaged like 13 fantasy points per game. He didn't reach 20 in a single game that year. So you have a quarterback who is not only – never before has there been a 40-year-old quarterback to come back from an Achilles injury, and there's been 3 guys who have averaged 15 or more fantasy points per game at 40 or older, Brady, Breeze, and Favre. So Rodgers could do that, but if he disappoints, you have a shaky O-line. Like you said, they added to it, but a lot of guys who have missed time in the past. Mike Williams is coming off of a torn ACL. This team is giving me – look, maybe I'm a biased Bills fan here, but I'm kind of getting 2011, I believe it was, like Eagles vibes off of this team where they brought in a bunch of big names and it just never really worked out. I would not be surprised if the Jets had a similar season. But, of course, their ceiling is winning the Super Bowl. So there's a wide range of outcome for that Jets team this year.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about a team here where I think at best Their offense would be third in the division. I love Jordan Love in Green Bay, what they're doing there. Certainly Detroit is exciting, and you can pencil them in for production. What about Chicago? How do you evaluate a rookie quarterback and a top 10 receiver and one of the most steady vets, Keenan Allen with the Chargers for last year? All of them went wrong with the Chargers. He was very productive when he was healthy earlier in the season. So how do you evaluate, does this work? Do we need to see something? What are your thoughts here on the Bears?
I think you should be, if you believe in Caleb Williams, and I believe in Caleb Williams. I watched all of his snaps from his last college season. He is a playmaker. He is an improviser. He is a cannon for an arm. There's no throw he can't make. I believe in the talent of Caleb Williams. That's why I think he's going to be the first Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards, and I think it happens this season. The only thing is I think it's one of those situations where the sum of the parts is better than the individual ones. Like, I love DJ Moore as a talent. I love Keenan Allen. I love Roma Dunze. But is there enough volume for those guys to live up to what they were? And especially because, like, Keenan Allen has not fallen off. Last year, his metrics were better than they've been in years, but he's a volume-dependent guy. So it could be one of those situations where the wide receivers week to week are a headache because one week could be DJ Moore having a big game, then it's Roma Dunze, then it's Keenan, or two of them could pop. But I think because of that, you want the quarterback because he's going to get all of that production baked into his stats. And yet you could get Caleb as your second quarterback in drafts. So I like taking, if you want to go with someone a little bit safer as your first quarterback, then take the upside shot on Caleb, or you could take Caleb first and then take someone safe like Jared Goff or Justin Herbert a little bit later.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And while we're talking about that, let's have a Superflex conversation just for a second here, Mike, because there's been proven in the past where if you get that dual threat quarterback, even if he is young, and you find a way to plug him into that Superflex position, that you'll reap the benefits of that. What about a guy like Anthony Richardson, who we didn't get to see a lot of last year, but the little bit that we did see was tantalizing?
I love Anthony Richardson. I have him. So to me, there's four elite quarterbacks in fantasy football. Josh Allen, of course, being number one, then Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. After those four, there's not a single quarterback I would take over Anthony Richardson because the upside is so high. In 2 full games he played last year, he averaged 25 fantasy points per game. Josh Allen finished leading the position at 23 per game. So big, wide gap there. And, again, I know it's only a 2-game sample size, but he is built like Cam Newton, who's faster than Cam Newton and could be the goal line running back potentially there. His head coach is part of the brain trust that designed the tush push in the first place. Plus, Shane Steichen now has shown us 2 years in a row. One, Jalen Hurts almost won the MVP with him as his OC. Then they lose him, and Philly takes a step back offensively. But the Colts, with Gardner Minshew, who, no disrespect to him, is as league average could get, they were in the playoff hunt and putting up numbers like Michael Pittman finished as a borderline wide receiver 1. So I trust the receivers they have there. I trust Shane Steichen, and Anthony Richardson could be a cheat code. His upside is only matched by Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts because those are the guys who can get you 600-700 rushing yards plus double-digit rushing touchdowns potentially. Richardson could get you that with even more rushing yards, I would say.
Yeah, as far as a super flex, or maybe you need a backup quarterback, you may have to be going to a rookie quarterback. And we talked about Caleb Williams, but of these 3 other potential starting quarterbacks, and I'm going to call Drake May a starting quarterback for now because at some point they're going to go to him. Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix. Which of these guys do you say has the best chance to help your team?
It's Jaden Daniels, and I don't think it's close. Like in my quarterback rankings right now, Daniels is in my top 10. Those other guys are not even in my top 24. So there's a wide gap there. But the reason is because, like you said, the rushing ability. Rushing quarterbacks are cheat codes because 10 rushing yards equates to 25 passing yards in most leagues. So 100 rushing yards now, all of a sudden we're talking about that being, 250 like it's a cheat code because then those guys are also throwing the ball. And Jaden Daniels is a prospect I liked a lot. I thought he was pretty close to Caleb Williams in my grading, and he can just run. His last 2 years in college, over 2,000 rushing yards and 21 rushing touchdowns. So think Anthony Richardson in the small sample size we saw last year, Lamar Jackson once he started, Jalen Hurts once he started, Kyler Murray, all of these guys are QB1s fantasy-wise from the moment they start because of what they give you with their legs, and I think Jaden Daniels is the next cheat code quarterback there. Plus, I love that he's got proven pass catchers around him, and he's got an OC in Cliff Kingsbury who might not be the best OC, but he has experience working with a quarterback who can run with Kyler Murray in the past. So Jaden Daniels, again, just like Caleb, I would take him as my QB1. I like him more than Caleb for fantasy, but then I would pair him with someone safe, like a Goff or someone like that.
Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, talking fantasy football in the sports bar. They're not really going to put Zeke Elliott in that backfield as the lead back this year, are they?
It seems that way, unless they sign. It's him and Rico Dowell. And right now the beauty is you can get both of those guys in like the 9th, 10th round. So there's nothing wrong with if you wait on running back or you have two guys, now you're getting your bench guys. You could take one of each. But, yeah, even at this old age, if Zeke Elliott is getting volume and is the starting running back for the Cowboys, he will be fantasy relevant.
What is last one for me, Michael? What is your advice? We're all going to be watching NFL Network coming up next weekend as all teams will be getting back this week, and I've had a tendency in the overpass to overreact to things I see in preseason. So, how would you advise us, the squares out here, to evaluate as we're going to get a lot of football information here coming up shortly?
I think you want to focus on usage and not results. Like using the Bills, for example, if KJ Hamler, let's say they bring him in for a play and he catches one 75-yard touchdown play, but that's the only snap he played with the starters, that doesn't really matter. But if someone like, let's say we're sticking with the Bills, if Shakira is out there on two wide receiver sets with Josh Allen and he's not leaving the field, then that matters a whole lot more to me. So I look for snaps played and how targets are distributed while the starting quarterback and the other starting players are out there. After that, yeah, you want your young guys to pop. You want them to play well and stuff like that. But if they're not getting consistent opportunity, I don't think one big play or something like that matters. And, in fact, I always say the opposite. If you really like someone, you don't want them to play well in preseason because in fact, you probably don't want them to play preseason at all. Because all it does is add that they could do well and their cost goes up or they can get hurt.
What about that, though, Michael? I mean, I think to myself, there's, to stay with the Bills, you keep bringing them up, and I love it. I think when Josh Allen was a rookie and we saw him in his first preseason, he threw a touchdown pass against the Browns, and it was one of those moments where you're like, oh, we haven't seen that in a while. That looks different. That's probably a good thing. Or Patrick Mahomes' first preseason as a starter in Kansas City, connecting deep against the Falcons with the Chiefs. Seeing that connection in the preseason kind of led to beautiful music through the regular season. Do you have a keen eye for those specific plays, those moments where you're like, oh, that looks different than what we're used to seeing?
Yeah, I think when it comes to young players, that's what you want to – look, if there's a veteran guy out there who's in year 6 and he does something cool, it's like, okay, but he's never done this for 6 years, so we kind of know that he can do that here and there, but he's not going to consistently give us that. But, like, if sticking with the Bills, if we come out and Keon Coleman runs downfield 40 yards and catches a contested catch over a defensive back from Josh Allen, I'd be like, yeah, that's something we've never seen before because we've yet to see Josh Allen play with a contested catch monster like Keon Coleman can be. So stuff like that with young players, that's what stands out to me. And especially with like running backs and stuff like that, when they're getting their opportunities with the second stringers, yeah, I know I said I care about opportunities with the first guys because that's probably how opportunities will be distributed early on. But it's a long season, like you said, and we could look back week 7 or 8 or whatever. So every year there's a couple of players that catch my eye in preseason, and I'm like, okay, he might be the second stringer, but we know injuries or something's going to happen. And come week 10, when this guy gets his opportunity, you could think back and be like, oh, I remember watching this guy in preseason, and he impressed me, so I want to add him off the waiver wire or something like that.
Michael F. Florio, the busiest time of year for all of us, but not for you. You've been doing homework since the final gun in the Super Bowl. So as the rest of the world is catching up, tell us what you have coming up and where we can get more of your work, Michael.
Yeah, you could catch me right now doing the NFL Fantasy Football podcast and the cheat sheet over on the NFL Fantasy YouTube page. Coming back mid-August, Fantasy Live is back on NFL Network, so please check us out then. And if you still want more, I'm writing a bunch of articles over at rotoballer.com right now. And on Sundays, I host a show with my good friend Scott the King Engel, Rotoballer Radio on Sirius XM Fantasy. So lots of places, if you still want to hear me, not sick of hearing me talk fantasy just yet, lots of places you could do so.
Love the hustle, Michael. Great having you on with us here in the Sports Bar, and hope we get the chance to do it multiple times throughout the course of the fantasy season. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
You got it. There he is, Michael F. Florio. Let's face it. I mean, if you're a guy like Flory, and there's people that are listening to us that have never really stopped playing fantasy football. They just kind of always doing their best ball drafts.
Yeah, they've already had their draft. Yeah. But for the most of us, I'm glad you brought up the Superflex because Richardson is that's one of the key guys. But then he's throwing Jaden Daniels into kind of that same bucket.
Right.
There.
He's saying Daniels and Richardson are top 10 guys, which means, the way I would view it is like if you get one of those guys to be your QB1, well, then your flex guy becomes a Goff or a Matthew Stafford or a Kirk Cousins, right? It's flipped, like the name brand that you've kind of grown accustomed to drafting early because of their name actually takes a back seat to the potential of a Daniels or a Richardson. It's interesting. I don't know. There's still a handful of guys that's like, I don't know that I would want Carr on my roster as a QB2 or Daniel Jones,
Baker Mayfield.
Right. Like there's a handful of guys that you might end up having to, it's just what's the quality of that second guy that you're taking if you're going to go take a swing with the high upside guy like a Richardson, a Daniels, or a Caleb Williams as your QB1. Great stuff there from Michael F. Flory of NFL Network. Happy Hour is next in the Sports Bar. I want to thank Major League Baseball for dropping a schedule we didn't ask for right into our laps this afternoon.
Well, we're not going to talk about. Well, let's break down the Yankees' 2025 schedule coming up next year in the Sports.
All right, we can do it right now. You ready? They get to play the Mets 6 times instead of 4. Next.
They open up against Milwaukee.
Next.
On March 27th. Buy your tickets now.
We got that. We've got the first round of the Open in our rearview mirror. We'll get to a handful of things along with your calls today. We got Muncie bombed earlier by Greg, one of our regulars.
We did, and like in his slingshot, he put up pictures like this is like a Spider-Man video where he's like he's speeding around High Falls. It's pretty funny. Danger got upset at me, by the way. We go to break. I didn't get upset. I didn't get upset.
I didn't know I didn't know what was going on. I was a little concerned. We're all professionals here. All of a sudden, I see my co-host leave the microphone, and I'm like, buddy, where are you going? What's going on? Oh, we got Muncie bombed. This is the ghost of Chuck Muncie haunting us in the Sports Bar. It's what it is.
It is. We have Chuck Muncie getting smelling salts. Now proudly hung up in the studio here.
Get to a round of shots coming up here before 6 o'clock. And again, more of your calls at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
HD2 Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Round one of the Open finally in the books, the final major of the year overseas, and it's Daniel Brown, your first round leader at 6 under. American Justin Thomas, he's 3 shots back. Not a good round at all. A 7 over 77 for Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, difficult day. I felt like I did, okay for the first part of the round, and then, missed the green with the postage stamp there and left it in and made a double, but still felt like I was in, reasonable enough shape, being a couple over through 9.
Tiger Woods also in danger of missing a cut. Tiger with a 79 today. Trade in the NBA. Russell Westbrook goes from the Clippers to Utah. Utah's going to buy out the contract, though. Westbrook expected to sign with the Denver Nuggets. This according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Major League Baseball schedule is out for 2025. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
This is that time of the year, right? I've always said kind of once the Open Championship wraps up, guys, it's kind of like just get us to the finish line. We're getting towards the end of July, and you're like, just get us to football season already.
Mike Danger.
Man, Wednesday can't get here soon enough. It's going to be a lot of fun hanging out at St. John Fisher, watching the guys get ready for a season. Bills Camp Live.
Gene Battaglia.
Summer's over, and we cannot wait. First practice out at camp. I wish they would give us a little peek behind the curtain with the rookie camp. Because they're out there right now. Yeah, like the rookies are out there, but not allowed out there.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar. You found Rochester's only local sports talk show. Thanks for checking us out at 95.7 FM, AM 950. The free-to-download Odyssey app. Your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And also our video stream up and rolling at our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester, also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. If you were watching earlier, you saw us get Muncie bombed by one of our regulars, Greg, on X. That's Elon's Twitter, at The Fan Rochester, who drove by and stood outside, sat in his car outside of our studio window holding a sign saying Chuck Muncie was here.
He called us, and he called while in the air, and like, hey, hello, Fan Rochester. It's Greg. Greg, what would you like to talk about? I'm outside your window. That's
nothing creepy about that, Greg.
Like, okay.
Totally normal. I'm watching you. I hear you talking about sports, and I'm watching you. I'm right outside your window. Sounds like the Carl's Jr. guy. Remember the old Carl's Jr. commercials?
I know.
Carl's Jr.
It's not quite like Times Square where you get the morning news shows there, and you can kind of peek through the glass. But on the other hand, we're kind of facing Commercial Street, our new studio, that if you did want to walk by and you did see 2 guys through the window.
I'm watching you talk about sports on The Fan Rochester, and I've got a Chuck Muncie sign. Don't look out your window. Nothing creepy about that, Greg. Appreciate it. Dan tweeting us at The Fan Rochester. Do I look like a Dan? Oh, this goes to what we were talking about earlier, how I said Gene looks more like a Rick, and Jack isn't a real name.
Dan, you're not a Dan, you're a Daniel.
Well, I was going to say he doesn't look like a Dan either. He looks like a Clint. You're Clint. I don't know what your last name is, Dan, but you're not really a Dan. You're a Clint. You look more like a Clint.
You look like a Christopher to me.
I do?
You do.
Yeah. That checks out, actually.
It does? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That works out okay. I'll be okay with that. Thanks for all the interaction, engagement. Appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube or on Twitch, feel free to drop a comment, like, subscribe as well. Put a little win in the sales. We always appreciate our regulars here on The Fan Rochester. And to answer Chris from South Central Kentucky, no, I'm not going to go to Grills Mafia and go up against Reed Ferguson in his barbecue competition. I appreciate that. I love what they've got going on there. And don't get me wrong, I love my ag. I love smoking and grilling some stuff in my backyard, but I'm not nearly ready to compete, nor do I want to go through that effort or hassle. I'm selfish. I like to make it for my family, my friends, and enjoy as much of it as I can without having to transport that thing everywhere I can.
Yeah, that's look, if it was here, maybe that's a different story.
Maybe, but that looks like a lot of fun. Appreciate you pointing that out to us, Chris. Appreciate you listening as always. Appreciate Major League Baseball for just giving us a gift. I mean, something we didn't even ask for. Like, hey, You know what we need today? We need a schedule release in the middle of a schedule.
This is the weirdest thing, but I don't think it's ever come out this early. Usually it's September, maybe late August. I think it was last year. Hey, here's next year's baseball schedule. Wait, who's my favorite team actually playing coming up Friday night? What's the schedule coming out of the All-Star break? Why? And then I could understand danger if they were saying, hey, and you know what? Buy now. And you're going to say, no, there's none of that. It's none of that. It was just, we need something to talk about today. Seeing there's nothing to talk about, here's your schedule. I got a better idea. Maybe next CBA, they'll make the baseball all-star break so long, or maybe break it up. Would that be okay? Maybe there's an idea, like where one league takes off before the break, and then the next league takes off after the break. And then that way, you don't have all this downtime. I'm up for new ideas, Danger, because it used to be baseball's all-star break Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, everybody back Thursday. But the players negotiated an extra day, so good for them.
Did I miss every team's release video for the 2025 schedule?
The only thing that crossed my feed was the Red Sox, and I didn't give it 2 seconds to watch it. You know why? Don't care. It's not a slam against the Red Sox. If you're a Red Sox fan, are you like, oh my gosh, let me pick up the pace here on my ride home. I've got to get home and look up the Red Sox 2025 schedule. No.
I mean, I guess when you have 162 games and you're a super fan, you want to map it out in advance as best you can. So I guess it's good because then they can just go and buy the tickets immediately, right? They can look right now.
No, you can't buy the tickets.
Oh, you're kidding. You can't even
buy the
Oh,
tickets.
well, that makes all the sense in the world.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
I'm sorry. I thought we were talking. We're not talking about baseball, are we?
If there's some executive, somebody with a business background, they're going to explain us what is the benefit of baseball doing this. Well, Gene, you got to say for the airfare, or like how I give the executive a nerd voice. You get for the airfare, or for the hotels, for the travel. Okay, that's all fine. Of course, that's all done in advance. You don't need to release this now to the public. And I point to the NFL. It's the month of May. What's going on in the NFL? Nothing. Free agency over. Draft over. OTAs, who cares? Minicamps still coming up.
Oh, who cares?
But we're going to own the news cycle in a time where, what do we have on the calendar? My gosh, the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, exciting. Major League Baseball, you have everything happening. None of it compares to the NFL schedule release. And you could be one of those, I don't care about the. No, if you're an NFL fan and your favorite team, you are curious. And the way the NFL does it now, with control, you can't even say leaks, but control nuggets. Here you go. Here's this primetime game. Here's that primetime game. It's coming up. And then you see your team video, and you're all excited, and now you're ready to buy tickets. You're ready for football season. Why can't baseball hold on to this and just say, wow, that was a great season. The World Series over. Coming up on Tuesday night, it's our schedule release. Tune in.
There's nothing stopping every individual baseball, hockey, or basketball team's social media team from doing a video around their schedule release, right? The NFL doesn't hold dominion over the content of all the other leagues. Just because the NFL and each individual team within it does their own schedule release video, it doesn't mean that other leagues can't follow suit. I mean, there's enough creative minds out there to do this, right? Because that's the thing about the NFL schedule release now that feels forward-thinking to me. I mean, they've been doing it for years now, but it's a coordinated effort. You know that every NFL social media team is working on something creative to share with the fans when the schedule actually releases. And you're reaching an audience that is your future audience, the audience that's going to buy tickets as they get older, as they become wealthier and develop the kind of wealth you're going to need to go to a game, whether it be baseball, football, hockey, or otherwise. I don't know, man. I feel like every league can take a page out of how the NFL rolls it out, generates excitement and enthusiasm, and just copy it, snatch and improve. Do it your way.
Well, it's like if the NFL said, here's our schedule for next year in week 8.
Right.
We'd be like, ugh.
Why?
Ugh. And also, I think there's a seasonality to this. Okay, the Yankees open up on March 27th. Danger, I don't want to picture what the world looks like in March. No, I really don't. I mean, yes, for the NFL, maybe that's an advantage the NFL has because, hey, September's great for weather. Boy, I picture myself at a tailgate. Cannot wait. Yeah, in the Northeast here in Rochester. Yeah, March. Oh my gosh, that sucks.
It's a dice roll.
Yeah.
That was a nice little surprise, and I know it was a surprise because I saw it cross my feed, and I'm like, oh, didn't know that was coming today. I brought it up on you. You're a bigger baseball fan than I am, admittedly, and you're like, what?
Well, I'm driving around doing my day-to-day job, and like I'm listening to One Bills Live. Nobody's talking about this.
Yep.
And I come in, and Danger's like, well, we could talk about the schedule release. What?
What schedule release?
What are you talking
Baseball, man. Come on. Get with it. Baseball, release their schedule. Aren't you excited for 2025? Aren't you ready?
It's the one constant in the world, I hear.
So you have that, and you have another unnamed executive talking to Jeremy Fowler about Stephon Diggs now. Now, if we're allowed to connect dots, do we believe that unnamed executive, are we getting closer to believing that unnamed executive is actually Brandon Beane?
I like how the quote on Josh Allen that everybody still is talking about, right, was from an unnamed executive. This is from an unnamed talent evaluator. Where do you draw the line on talent evaluator? Is it one of the guys from Cover One because they evaluate talent? Is it an actual scout? Are we talking about an executive? Pretty broad range there for talent evaluator. Mike Danger, can you give me an opinion on Kyler Murray?
I can.
Yeah, there you go. You're a talent evaluator.
He's small.
Yeah, there you go. You, sir, are a talent evaluator. So are you the person whispering in Jeremy Fowler's
Fowler,
ear?
quote me. Kyler Murray, undersized. Next case. Is that where we're at?
This is where we're at. And this will all kind of evaporate. It brings us back to the beginning of the week when we're talking to Bruce Nolan, who kind of pointed out the cycle in the NFL where what is big today, you will forget about 6 months from now. And what was big earlier this week, this unnamed source, it's not even a real person putting the name to the quote about Josh Allen, but that's all we could talk about. Is that really news, or is it just getting to the forefront knowing that because we don't have a story? Well, I bring you what Jeremy Fowler said today, and this is from an NFL talent evaluator who didn't give their name, just openly wondering how Diggs will fit in that Houston offense with the talent there and with Diggs' character. That's the part where I'm kind of like, I don't think people in the league necessarily care about Diggs' finger quote character. He's a receiver that wants the ball. Have you not watched the receiver program? Because that's another topic there. Devontae Adams basically throwing his quarterback under the bus. Are we thinking differently about Devontae Adams, or are we this is how the position is played? So am I concerned about how Diggs is going to fit in that Houston offense? Absolutely not. He'll get his targets. Now, we were joined earlier today by Michael Florio from the NFL Network, and he's right, though, where you're expecting if you're expecting the number of targets that Diggs got in that Buffalo offense down in Houston, this is not going to happen.
In fantasy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might not be the lucrative fantasy option that he was for you with Josh Allen throwing the ball, and he was really the guy in the Bills offense, whereas in Houston, you've got a handful of guys that could certainly be fantasy relevant. Love that conversation with Florio. He was great. Michael Florio from NFL Network. Talking some fantasy football. We also talked some soccer. Liz Masterson, RIT women's soccer coach, joined us. By the way, just a quick soccer note. FIFA released their rankings. Argentina is still number 1 in the world. Explain this to me. France is 2. Spain is 3. Spain, who beat France in the Euros. Spain, who just won the Euros, yet France is still ranked 2nd above Spain in the FIFA rankings. Not that I'm bitter.
It sounds like a take to me, Mike Danger.
Make it make
dividing
sense.
The audience?
That's a pretty good take.
There are takesmen there, that FIFA.
Yeah, the FIFA rankings are nothing more than a take. They just put out their rankings to split an audience. I get what you're doing, and it's working because I'm mad. I'm mad. How do you win the Euro and find yourself ranked behind the team that you beat to get to the Euro final?
Well, what I learned today is what we're sending over for the Olympics for the U.S. men, this really is not the best in the world. It's under 23. That's how the United States is in there and good, and we'll all be cheering. But if they get far and if it's a win, if it's a medal, it's going to feel a little hollow. But I think the pressure is actually on the women. I think that our standing in the world eroded for various reasons. And when we talked to Liz earlier, going back to the last Women's World Cup, time to kind of claim your spot once again there. I don't think soccer is at the top of the menu for most of us when it comes to the Olympics. Certainly the World Cup to me feels like the real thing. But I think it's still kind of important in the Olympics. My gosh, after this Saturday, it's going to be the following weekend here, Danger. That's coming right at us.
By the way, Team USA in the FIFA World Rankings fell from 11th to 16th. For the life of me, I have no idea how they were rated and ranked as high as 11th. So FIFA needs to make it make sense to me. It makes zero sense to me as far as their world rankings go. But I suppose that's what they put it out there for, to create this, to get people angry. It's nothing more than a take. College football rankings will be a take. FIFA rankings are a take. If you're ranking anything, you're in the business of takes.
The two, I think, main stories in the NFL today, we were just talking about the Texans, and there's nothing really coming out of Texans camp other than the fact that they open fully. And they get to open fully because they're on the opening night against the Chiefs, so they get the head start on everybody. The other story comes out of Washington, Danger, where normally executives leaving, it's the Francis, and not this, though. And
who cares?
Jason Wright, who was the carryover from the Snyder regime, he was in charge there as the president since 2020. He's exiting stage right. They put out the flowery statement saying he's going to serve as an advisor, blah, blah, blah. No, the advisor he's still on the payroll. This is the settlement. Now you go over there and it's the holidays and you're sitting at the kids' table. You're not at the main party. That's kind of the way I view the senior advisor role. If you don't believe me, what's Bruce Arians doing in his senior advisor role with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? That's nothing.
He's still there?
He's still there.
Arians is still there.
Senior advisor.
Wow.
Like, instead of saying you're fired, okay, you know what? You didn't deserve to be fired, but we want Tom Brady back for one more year. You go sit over at the kids' table.
That's pretty good.
Jason Wright is out in Washington, and really that's not surprising because you just want to rid yourself of everything Snyder-related. But if I had to say which team, not just in the NFL, in sports, North America, Major League Sports, baseball, basketball, hockey, the NFL, which one has the worst stadium situation? Now, talking about teams that don't have a plan. I'm not a believer in the Oakland A's plan, but they have a plan. There is no plan in Washington. So whoever that new president is, you got to come in. You got to come up with some sort of plan pronto. And we've talked about this, too, before, whenever this comes up. That should be the prime area where you're going to get what you want. You have the district competing against Virginia, competing against Maryland. This isn't, hey, the Bills are in New York and you're competing against yourself. You have different states you can pit against one another. They're down in the Beltway.
It's funny, stadiums that were built probably approaching 20 years ago or more still feel newer than, they are newer than FedEx Field. But they've got to be coming due as well. I'm thinking of Arizona. I'm thinking of Houston. I'm thinking of those kind of state. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they've gotten to the NFL is a stadium building business. They are a stadium building business, and Washington's due. Yeah, long overdue.
There's so much wealth down in that area. And to me, if you had to pick the sleeping giant franchise in sports, that's it. Get rid of the Commander's name. Tweak the uniforms to look like something of yesteryear, but you're kind of looking forward, but a nod to going back to the Gibbs era and prior to that. And just put out a winning product, too. I mean, honestly, I want Washington fans to be excited after getting rid of that guy finally.
Well, they should be. I mean, I don't think you can turn the page entirely. I mean, you move on from Rivera. That was a step, right? Like, everybody kind of thought that was going to happen, and now looks like eliminated one of the final pieces left over from a really horrific era of ownership with the Washington football team.
I would point this out, too, because this is like a parallel to what happened in Washington and Buffalo. Like, the Bills ended up with Sean McDermott. Can we be honest? Because it was a franchise that really couldn't attract the top candidates. After Rex Ryan and Doug Whaley, it's hard to imagine the Bills being that dysfunctional S show, but they kind of were. they got facepalmed by the best offensive coordinator. I shouldn't say the best, the hottest coordinator in Ben Johnson. Like, you figured that should have been the guy. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm pretty good. It feels like they had to settle for Dan Quinn. I'm pulling for Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn feels like the leftover. Kind of in a way like, Sean McDermott came in and we were like, okay, great.
He's a guy, right? And
sometimes
the he's a guy is exactly what the organization needs. In case of the Bills, I mean, the pendulum swung completely in the direction, right? You had Rex, and then you went
you have
to
a showman in Rex,
yeah,
and
you
then
went to the
a football
anti-Rex,
guy, yeah.
right? Like you went the complete opposite direction. So I'm pulling for Washington, man. I hope they get it together. That would be fun. The NFL is a better place when Washington football is relevant. I'm with you on everything you said. Blow it up, rebrand, reimage, new nickname, freshen up the uniforms, get a new stadium.
Now, that being said, has the era of the here we are, we're this municipality, and here is $800 million for you to build the stadium. Is that over?
I tell you what,
it
man.
feels over.
I was having dinner on Saturday night with friends who are not NFL fans. Not that they're anti-NFL.
Are they from the area or no?
No, they're from here.
So are they at least aware what our state did?
I think they are aware, but when I explain to them the quadruple jack that is happening right now if you're a Buffalo Bills fan in terms of the new stadium, the taxpayer dollars one, the PSL 2, the season tickets 3, the financing of all of it with the interest rate 4. Explain it to somebody and they're like, yeah, why would you do that? Why would anybody sign up for that? That makes no sense. And I don't have an answer other than we're addicts. We're addicts. We're nuts.
It's part of our culture.
We're just nuts. That's all we can say. We're just nuts. Because a rational thinking human being would look at that and be like, no. People in Los Angeles maybe have a little bit more common sense than we do because they're like, no, you're a billionaire. Build your own damn stadium. It's happening right now in Illinois as well. No, you're a billionaire. You've had the return on investment of the Chicago Bears. You know what they bought that team for when they first bought it? I mean, look at what they bought it for versus what they made it now. You mean to tell me that the McCaskies can't build a $1 billion plus stadium? Get out of here. But that's not the NFL's model. You got to hustle. You got to get out there. And whether you're in Washington or Chicago, you better press the flesh and try to get some of that public money into the coffers because we're billionaire owners and we're not going to pay for our stadiums. This is the NFL.
Who's your president, Warren?
Kevin Warren.
Okay, here's my stance on the Bears, okay? As a friend, I want the Bears to be entertaining. I don't think they're a playoff team, but Danger, if they're entertaining and they win games and they show promise, and if you see Caleb Williams and you're like, wow, he's going to be the guy. It is the most exciting season since you went to the NFC Championship game. True or false?
Oh, it's. I have more hope going into this season than I've had since the Bears fired Lovie Smith.
I'm not going to run. No. If the way I described it to you, if non-playoff year, dare I even say losing record, but if you come out of that saying, man, our defense sucks, but wow, I think we have a quarterback. To me, that should be the expectation. That's all this year is about. So that's my hope for you, that Caleb Williams is the quarterback, and if that's the case, 2 thumbs up.
Florio said he's going to pass for 4,000 yards.
He would be the first Bears quarterback ever to do that.
First ever.
The only team that does not have a 4,000-yard quarterback. That is a mind-blowing stat when you have all these other expansion teams since then. While I'm rooting for that, I want Warren, your president, to fail. Honest to God, after they're putting out these statements, sorry for using the Lord's name in vain, but what the heck, when you have a pastor getting up there and praying for new stadium to come, and you have these beautiful artist renderings with bike paths and things that don't have anything to do with football, the state of Illinois is like, yeah, stick it.
Well, he's meeting with them today. That's another bit of NFL news.
Okay.
He's meeting with Illinois leaders.
How does he save face out of this?
I have no idea. Yeah, there you go. That's what we. Oh, and he hasn't officially retired yet, but Randall Cobb got a new gig. He won't be with the Jets this upcoming season. He'll be a a studio analyst on ESPN, the SEC network, during the college football season.
What if there's injuries to the Jets or things to go sideways from the Jets? Does Aaron call up and be like, Randall, come on back?
Will Aaron be able to function? I mean, we knew he had a couple of years where he wasn't teammates with him in Green Bay, but, he got him back in Green Bay there that last season in Green Bay.
Well, it's not the wide receiver. It's the offensive line. There is a guy still out there for the offensive line.
Nathaniel Hackett needs a babysitter. It's everything. It's a mess. It's a mess.
So what's the story? Like they wanted to bring in Arthur Smith to be, dare I say, an advisor?
I don't know.
Overlook his shoulder?
He said no. I don't blame him because you got a quarterback who doesn't matter what you call. He's going to do whatever he wants anyways. You have a quarterback who's uncoachable. You have an offensive coordinator who can't get through to him because he's buddies, who needs a babysitter. You've got an unproven defensive-minded head coach who, while he has a good defense, doesn't really feel like he gives any damns about what happens on the offense or how they develop their young talent. It's still, and on top of that, an owner who's impulsive and a little bit wacky. I'm sorry, I can't sign up for that. Do I think the Jets could win more games this year than last year? Yeah. Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. And even if Aaron Rodgers looks like he looked the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers, they're still getting better quality of quarterback play than they did last year, and they win 8-9 games. But that's still a dysfunctional organization.
And you're going to have to suspend your judgment on the Jets because I don't think they win in San Francisco. In fact, I hope that's comically bad for the Jets. But then you get Will Levis, Drake May, Bo Nix.
When we talk about how fast narratives
McCarthy,
come.
like rookie.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, 2 retread quarterbacks with the Steelers. Rookie, C.J. Stroud, Kyler Murray. Second-year quarterback. No idea what they're trotting out in Seattle. Like, that is the Jets' schedule.
Right.
That matters. And all that being said, Danger, all that being said, I see the arc being, well, the Jets are the team to beat. Let's talk about it here today on ESPN Live. Okay, when they're 5-1, who cares? Let's skip ahead to December. Because when I look at the end of the Bills' schedule, where you get New England, the Jets, New England, I see the same story arc as we had last year, meaning watch it come down to the last week against the Patriots once again, Danger for the Buffalo Bills.
All right, we'll get to a round of shots next in the sports bar.
Yes, we had an NBA trade today. Actually,
you don't like this player at all. I didn't realize how much you dislike Russell Westbrook.
Well, and I hate the team he's going to. No, check that. I like the team he's going to. I don't know what this team is thinking. Like, why would you think this is what you need to get over the top? No idea here. Great. One of the best guys, I think, in terms of personality and just being an all-around good dude, passed away today from the NBA. And, yes, Caitlin Clark last night. We haven't even touched on that, Danger. WNBA record.
Okay. That's on the way next. A round of shots and last call where you could have the final word in the sports bar. Our number is 866-4326-585. 866-4FAN.
You're listening to the Sports Update.
The final major of the golf season. Round 1 is in the books at the Open, and your leader just right at the end, Dustin Brown. He's at 6 under, one shot ahead of Shane Lowry. We'll have the complete scoreboard coming up in shots in just a moment. Rory McIlroy, a 7 over 77. Tiger Woods, a 79 today. Bills practice beginning in full coming up next Wednesday. The rookies still doing their work today out at St. John Fisher University. A trade day in the NBA. Russell Westbrook goes from the Clippers to Utah. Eventually should work his way to the Denver Nuggets. The 2025 Major League Baseball schedule released today. The New York Yankees will open up next season on March 27th at home against Milwaukee. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Bills, Sabres, Amerks. Your home for live sports is 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
How did he who shall not be named fare in round 1 of the Open?
7 over 77.
Yes.
Like, just put this into context, Danger. John Daly still is exempt. Why does John Daly do this to himself? Just for the record.
For the party.
That's it. I mean, I guess because he has his sponsors and he's out there, and his sponsors, they get the visual or whatever, but he's not making any money. You don't make cut, you don't make money. John Daly has no prayer making any cut. John Daly, no prayer making any cut, was only 4 shots worse than Rory today. That's hilarious to me.
That's good.
Yeah. That 11. Tiger.
Not great.
No, Tiger. Speaking of Tiger Woods here, like, it's not great, right? 9 over. But where is the line when it comes to talking about Tiger? And this was one of the commentators on the Peacock feed, and this is actually a guy from Sky Sports. And the first initial reports, nobody knew who was saying this. Turns out that Mark Rowe is a commentator, not a real well-known guy, but he gets off this take. Tiger Woods, and you look at his eyes, and you've got to think there's a lot of painkillers being taken.
Whoa.
Like, wait a second.
Whoa.
Like, wait a second. Kind of sounds like libel to me, Danger.
What
the world?
Doesn't mean he's wrong.
No, but it's like,
maybe he saw Tiger at the bar. I don't know. He run into him in the men's room with a orange bottle.
Okay, maybe Mark Rowe is actually kind of friends there with Colin Montgomery. Maybe that's also part of it.
Right.
You look in his eyes, you got to think there are a lot of painkillers being taken.
Can we ask him that at the next press conference? I want a rapid fire response like we got from Colin the other day.
As a past champion, I'm exempt till I'm 60. Colin's not. He's not a past champion, so he's not exempt. So he doesn't get the opportunity to make that decision. I do. So when I get to be at his age, I can still make that decision when he doesn't.
When I'm a past champion, I can take painkillers as much as I want. If Colin Montgomery wants to take painkillers, he can decide to do that when I'm his age. Maybe I'll take more painkillers.
What in the world? We could have some golfers that you care about on the leaderboard. Brooks Koepka, he had a 70 today, which is 1 under. So did same score for Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler, your favorite entering the tournament. He is 4 shots back as well at 1 under. And Tony Finau, another guy we were kind of spotlighting there, he was at even par today. John Rahm, by the way. What happened to that guy?
What'd you just say?
John Rahm?
Oh, yeah? How'd John Rahm do at the Open, Gene? Tell me on your way to Bill Gray's.
John Rahm, 2 over 73.
I love it. It's so good.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm going to go up to Buffalo, and I'm going to go get some hot wings and blue cheese. And then after that, I'm going to take my kids to the Bills game.
I sometimes I also think, like, should I apply for jobs around the nation? I'm like, who am I kidding?
No.
I can't do it.
You can't shed your Rochester accent.
I can't do it.
You can't shed
from Rochester.
Yeah, when it comes out, it's magnificent. I remember, I feel bad because I feel like I crushed my wife's dreams early in her career. I remember she's like, I want to do voiceover work. Do you think I could do voiceover work?
So are you dating at this point, or
I think we were married at the time.
Okay, so for folks who are not familiar, before you were married, before you were engaged, before you were dating, you were her boss.
Not really. I wasn't her boss until, well, I was her boss for a period of time that we were dating, I suppose. But I did get engaged shortly after I became her boss. And I can't remember exactly when I said it to her, but she's like, I think, I could make some side money doing voiceover work. I'm like, you probably could. And the issue you're going to have is that you have a Rochester accent. And she's like, what? No, I don't. I'm like, yes, you do.
I do not. Let's go to Bill Gray's.
Oh, my God. Is that my wife's impersonation? That is not my wife.
Come on, let's go get some Abbott's. It's delicious.
Yeah. How did John Ram do? Tell me again.
John Ram had 2 over 73. He's from Spain,
Oh, yeah? Well, I like Bryson DeChambeau.
I don't like this NBA trade. I'll just be upfront and I said the Clippers, no surprise, they're dumping Russell Westbrook. I mean, the Lakers dumped him. It hasn't worked out wherever he's gone here, right? That was 10 years ago, by the way, when he's doing his triple-double thing with Oklahoma City. A lot of time. Westbrook goes to Utah for a second-round pick swap. He ain't staying in Utah, but Utah's going to eat out the contract, dump it. Assuming that he clears waivers, Adrian Wojnarowski reporting that, you like how I combined, by the way, the two metaphors there, like you can either eat the contract or buy out the contract.
We're not going to repeat what you said.
No.
It's okay.
No, I'm acknowledging that was very unfortunate.
Oh, yeah? Well, let's go eat out at Bill Gray's. We'll get a great plate. After we're done working at Kodak.
You can bite the bullet, eat the contract, buy out the contract. I've never heard eat out until that came out of my mouth just now.
No, you can.
You can eat out at Bill Gray's. And then you can rip up the contract while you're there. Tell me about what Adrian Wojnarowski said.
Westbrook's going to Denver. Why?
Because he's an a-hole.
No, like Westbrook, when he went to the Lakers, I'm like, no, this is terrible. This is not going to work. And sure enough, it didn't work. And then he goes to the Lakers, and it didn't work.
I think his role will be so minimal with Denver that this is a 0. I don't think it matters. I think his role with Denver will be so minimal that Denver will still be one of the top 3 teams out west. And as long as you have Jokic is the alpha. Jokic is the dude. Westbrook will not be the dude.
Here's my take. Like, the second things go wrong, they're going to pick him up for peanuts, right? At this point, your contract, it's done. We're going to bring you in, and here's your new contract. And if you're not fitting, then okay.
Yeah.
If it's not a fit, bye-bye.
A 0 risk, yep.
City of Orlando, Florida, owes a debt of gratitude to Pat Williams. He was the man who pushed hard for the city to get an NBA expansion team, and they did, and they became the GM of the Magic, and he got luck. That's also part of the story in the lottery. The team landing Shaq, Anthony Hardaway, they were fun up front. And then in the second act, they got Dwight Howard, went to a finals.
Yeah.
Williams passed away from complications from pneumonia. He leaves behind a wife and 19 children.
Holy!
Now, 14 of them were adopted.
Okay. All right.
But that grocery bill, Pat Williams was 84.
Oh, my God. 19 kids? And Florida public schools ain't great. You putting them in private school? 19?
19.
Oh, my God. God bless them.
Like, is there a city? I'm being honest. Like, wait a second. How do they have a major league team? Like, Orlando's known for one thing, right?
I don't know, man. I've spent some time in Orlando. Kind of like Orlando.
No. You've spent some time in Disney.
Not true. I have friends in Orlando. We went to a restaurant the last time we were there that was in Orlando, and you could have said this is like a nicer version of Park Avenue. It was really nice. Lots of shops along the street. Nice downtown, clean. We went to the arena for a concert one time. That was fun.
Okay.
Orlando, to me, it's just a good mid-size market. It's nothing more than a Minneapolis or like a Milwaukee. It's got some of that feel to it, except it's in the middle of Florida. It's, like downtown Orlando looks to me like downtown Minneapolis. It doesn't really look different to me.
We should dig out the quotes on how Caitlin Clark is only a shooter. Remember that?
Yeah.
Diana Taurasi recently made the analogy that Clark was going from kindergarten to the first grade. Well, I don't know if there's ever been a first grader who had 19 assists in a game. That is not the rookie record. That is the WNBA record. But the team, Indiana, still lost to Dallas last night. How does the WNBA take advantage of the Major League Baseball All-Star break? They don't. There's no action tonight, no action tomorrow. The All-Star game for the WNBA coming up Sunday night.
Nah, it doesn't make any sense. It just feels like a complete mess. And good on Clark for matching the number of kids that Pat Williams had with her assist total last night.
I had to clarify, like Danger said, 19. How is that even possible?
I mean,
the one time you mentioned about Phillip Rivers, that was one of those, like, sometimes I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's probably best that you're here as a restrictor plate. It's fine. That's shots in the sports bar. I don't like the people that go around bragging about how, their week, the calendar revolves around their schedule, saying things like, "It's my Friday." Well, Gene, it's our Friday.
Well, let's just put it in our terms. Football starts next week, and that's kind of it for time off until, Thanksgiving, maybe?
Yeah, we've got our running shoes on, and we're ready to go. Training camp gets underway Wednesday, and of course the sports bar will be live. We'll have all of your player interviews. Brandon Bean stopping by, I'm sure. We'll give you all access to what we're seeing and what we're taking in at St. John Fisher University for Buffalo Bills training camp. That starts Wednesday. We return to the sports bar after a little 3-day weekend here coming up on Monday. We hope you enjoy your weekend. If you missed Michael F. Florio dishing out fantasy football advice last hour, if you missed Liz Masterson, RIT women's soccer coach, who joined us in the 3 o'clock hour, Odyssey Rewind in the free Odyssey app. You search out the sports bar, and you can go back and listen to any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 72 hours. It's almost like DVR for your radio. And we appreciate you listening to us where we sound our best in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. While we're dishing out big thanks to everybody who stopped by our video stream to watch the sports bar on our YouTube channel, also on Twitch. Thanks to Greg for Muncie bombing us earlier today, throwing Gene a complete loop.
Good job, Greg.
It was great, Greg. Really appreciate that.
I'm watching you.
Guys, don't look out the window. It's Chuck Muncie. JR Sport Brief next on the Fan Rochester.